you could smell death in the air, like devastation. There's a certain smell. We had a Marine Corps veteran that needed a liver, and we found him a liver. And he's doing incredible. He's in remission. He's doing great. I understand screening is scary, but if I can identify your cancer in early stages, if you do have cancer, I can work with so many other people that we can help extend your life, if not save your life.
Stage 4 terminal brain cancer.
Glioblastoma. He was expected to live months, and that was 5 years ago.
Wow. Hunter 7 Foundation. We've been waiting for this one for a little while. So
yes,
Chelsea, Simone, I'm gonna get up and do one of these right here. Thank you. And Chachi.
Yes.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you were really busy today with everything going on at SHOT Show 2026. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to come sit down with me and tell Hunter 7's story. I've been wanting to do a podcast with you. I just haven't. I'm just trying to figure out a time where we were like in the same place, where it was like convenient for you, and it wasn't like nobody was flying out of their way to come do this stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to really tell the story for you. I'd rather you guys do that. But we'll kind of go through like kind of what the organization does. Obviously, I don't know if you guys know, both of these fine individuals here work at, well, one of the things you guys do aside from everything else is Hunter 7 Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that benefits specifically service members that have been affected or impacted by exposure-related illnesses. You do a lot of stuff involving cancer research, a lot of stuff that helps people. You've raised hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to specifically benefit veterans and the veteran community. And you've done a lot more than even just cancer-related stuff. I mean, you specifically helped me. Anytime I get people DMing me with like something going on, I almost always text you first to say, hey man, can you guys do anything to help this? Because I don't really like using GoFundMe anymore because it's harder to vet stuff. And also I don't have the bandwidth to always do the vetting. And so you guys, being that this is like your wheelhouse, I usually kind of rely on your expertise on a lot of this stuff to get it done the right way. So that way we're making sure that we are actually, number one, verifying that the people are actually in need, verifying that, okay, who do we need to funnel money to help this person that's a legitimate organization or whatever, and then also the actual act of getting the funds raised and the platform for doing that. And you guys have been super helpful for a lot of that stuff, because that's one of the reasons I started social media in the first place, was to help people. To help people specifically in the community that I'm a part of, because that's like what we should be doing. We should be wanting to do something to make the world a better place. We should want to do stuff to help people, and we should just want to leave the world better, than it was when we entered, and I think that's like one of the big reasons I started in the first place, like I said, and you guys have been really helpful for me, doing a lot of good. And you guys do a ton of good stuff outside of just me. I'm just one person that is one small teeny percentage of the people that you interact with on a daily basis, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting into more of the stories about it, so that people can have a better understanding of like what it is that you guys do, and a little bit about your background too. So we'll start with you, Chelsea. What's a little bit about your background with the military, because I know you're a veteran too. You're both veterans, but we'll start with you. I kind of want to know what did you serve? When did you serve? What branch? What did you do when you're in? Where'd you go?
So thank you for letting me go first, because after I go and Chachi tells his story, it's just a draw dropper. So okay. I appreciate that. Yeah. My story is not as cool as Chachi's.
Mine isn't either. So
I mean,
I'm right there.
It's like sitting next to a legend. But
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
So I knew I was going to join the military when I was younger. We lived near a reserve base, and we'd see people run by and in their BDUs, and it was just the coolest thing I've seen. And so I was so pro-Army, and I come from a big military family. So my grandfather was in the Air Force, my cousin's an Air Force fighter pilot. I have my brother who was in the Marines. He served in 6th Marine Regiment and Sagan.
He was in 1-6?
Yeah, he was in 1-6 Weapons Company.
Oh, Weapons Company.
Yeah,
nice.
he's seen some stuff.
What was his MOS?
He was a
0311?
a machine gunner.
Oh, machine gunner. He was at 31.
He was, yeah. So he put in some time.
Yeah.
And so, growing up, I come from a background that was kind of, I didn't have the greatest things growing up. I worked for everything I had. We grew up extremely poor. And so for me, going into the service was kind of like my way of finding a family, And so I wasn't that good in high school. You know, I stayed back my freshman year. I was a terrible student, D's, F's. I was a great athlete. But I got a full scholarship to Mass Maritime Academy to play sports. And my mom said to me, you can't even do your homework. What makes you think you can go to college? And I was like, well, that's a valid point. And so I gave up the scholarship and I enlisted in the National Guard. And, you know, definitely not as cool as Chachi's story, but broke my back.
Broke your back?
In 2010. Yep, had to have a spinal surgery.
What'd you do to break your back?
I fell out of a Humvee.
Out of a Humvee?
It was operator error.
Okay.
But had to have surgery.
How did you fall out of a Humvee?
It's a long story.
With style.
With style.
Style and flair.
Graciously.
And all the Chelsea awesomeness that you
Where-
can
where
have.
was
Have
this?
you not? It was stateside.
Oh, stateside?
It was yeah. I was about to have my own stateside kill, which was with myself. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
So I'm not the best driver, not the best academically. I'm not really the best at much. However, I'm too dumb to quit. Good thing, bad thing. So they said to me, hey, you got to be careful because I had to have emergency surgery. They cut a laminectomy in my L5S1 at 20 years old. I turned 21 during recovery period. And I was like, I'll be back. I'll be back. And my neurosurgeon said to me, don't do it because you're going to end up getting hurt again. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it anyways. You know, like I'm young.
Naturally.
But I think it's important to note that I didn't realize that I had a mental health, I don't want to call it a problem, a mental health situation going on. But, you know, recovering from that injury post-op, you know, given 300 pills of Percocet, you know, to the point where I took so many that I could barely swallow the pills anymore. And then being given liquid Percocet on top of that, you know, and I just turned 21. And it's like I'm 21 years old. I don't have a measuring cup. So I was staying with my grandparents. They took care of me for a good majority of my life. And I drank too much liquid Percocet, and I actually threw up on myself and passed out. And luckily, I didn't overdose and die. But I didn't have pain physically. I had pain emotionally. And so, like, I just felt so disconnected because the one family I did have that I found in the military, I wasn't with anymore. You know, that time and period, I felt alone. I felt by myself. And so I ended up getting a waiver, staying in service, and went to go the commissioning route because they were like, you're going to, you know, you can't do what the normal soldier can do because you're so physically just destroyed. And I was doing burpees in 2015. I don't know, it all feels the same. But I think it was like 5 years later, I was doing burpees, and on the 30th burpee, snap. And my lower back and a pain shot down both my legs. Then
For
it
the
went
second time?
Went totally numb. And so I herniated my disc again. Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so then they were like, hey, your career's over. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what else am I going to do? This is my career. I'm not good in school. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at anything. Obviously, I'm not good at driving. But from Boston.
I'm so many jokes.
Boston.
So I only crashed like 6 cars, okay? And only 6 of them were accidents. So so they said to me, your career's over, go find something else to do. And I was like, well, there's not much else I can do. And so I was medically discharged a few years later, and I went home, and I remember I had a pistol, a .250 compact that was given to me by the unit that I was with. And I was laying in my grandparents' house, and I was just so depressed because my unit deployed to Syria. And these are people that I trained up, you know, like when I was in a certain role, they put me in a PL position as an E5. And so I was sitting there and I was like, well, what am I going to do? And it was the first time in my life that I ever contemplated suicide. And I would have done it if it wasn't for my grandparents. I was in their house and I couldn't do it to them, you know? And so I ended up getting in the car and just driving south. And I called, at the time I was enrolled in nursing school as an undergrad student. I think I was a junior. I know I was probably a sophomore. But I was older. I was like 27, 28. And so I called my professor, one of my nursing instructors, who is also a military veteran, Dr. Sherry Boucher. She was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, flight nurse, Afghanistan. And I called her, and she was my maternity professor, and I said, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And she's calm, cool, relaxed, just said to me, hey, it's let's talk this through, stay on the phone with me. And I ended up going to the VA and getting help and talking about it and finding the root cause of my problems. But, I think that was a big way. It just kind of hit me. Like, my identity that I thought I had, that was my family, is now taken away from me, stripped away like that. And I think a lot of people that leave service don't realize that's a real concern. Like, it's a love-hate relationship, but as soon as you take that uniform off, you're no longer a team, you're just you. And that's tough,
Being disconnected and stuff.
You're just disconnected. And so I was hanging out with my husband, well, my now husband, one day, and I was still in school, and we were sitting in his truck in a parking lot, and he said to me, he's an Iraq War veteran. He served with 2nd Cav in Iraq 07-08 for 15 months. He was stop-lost. And so he said to me a lot of his friends had died from service. And I said, well, you were there during the worst time of the war. And he said a lot of them died from combat, but also a lot died when they came home. And I said, well, from suicide? And he said some of them, but most of them from some kind of cancer or something. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you didn't have anybody die from cancer in service when you were in service? And I thought about it, and I was like, wait, one of my pilots died. And he died from pancreatic cancer almost suddenly, Chief Warrant Officer 4 Thomas McNulty. And so I was like, this is absurd, And so he goes through, and he's like, yeah, my best friend Sully was 24 when he died. My another teammate was 36 who died of leukemia. And then he mentioned Sergeant Major Rob Bowman. And Sergeant Major Rob Bowman, at the time, was Kyle's E8. And when they came home, Rob started having flu-like symptoms. He was only 44 years old, and he was getting ready to go to the Sergeant Major Academy. And they said, you need to come in. We found something significant, and it was cholangiocarcinoma, which is extremely rare bile duct/liver cancer, commonly seen in Asian males over the age of 80, not healthy 44-year-old Irishmen. And so the conclusion was that in the strikers, for example, they have the armors up-armored with depleted uranium. And so they're great for saving your life, especially if you hit a IED, but they also can eject particulates, or if the cab, ignites from a fire. So you're exposed to all these different carcinogens. And so he ended up passing away. And so in honor of him, his call sign when he was in Mosul as an E7 was Hunter 7. And so in tribute to him, we named the foundation after him.
And this was Sergeant Major, what was his name?
Rob Bowman.
Rob Bowman.
Yep.
Sergeant Major Rob Bowman, who was in the he was a recon. So he served first in Deuce 4 in 04-05 in Mosul, and then he was switched over to 2nd Cav. He was in 3-2, part of their recon platoon, I believe, with Kyle. And he worked in Bradleys mainly, is that what you said?
Strikers.
Strikers, okay.
Strikers.
Yeah, because Marine Corps doesn't have strikers. We don't have Bradleys either, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, sorry.
You guys got to walk everywhere.
So Sergeant Major Bowman was that's like the person that this was all started from, because his call sign was Hunter 7 when he was in Mosul.
And so when Kyle said that to me, it just kind of struck up. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why does this keep happening? How come these young people are dying? And so I went back in to school, and I saw Dr. Boucher, and I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this, cancer in military service? She's like, oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And I was like, what am I missing here? And I said, I thought about it, and I was like, well, I want to figure out why this is happening. And I was like, I want to do research. And they said to me, you're an undergrad nursing student, you don't do research. And I was like, well, I do now.
Yeah.
And so we did a study on Operation Iraqi Freedom veterans pre, during, post-deployment, like all 3 stages. So it's a retrospective correlation type study, like looking at, hey, what was your level of physical fitness? What was your symptomology? What was over the time? And you can see, these soldiers deploy extremely fit. They're extremely healthy, but they don't return the same. And so that published my senior year of undergrad, and I was like, well, this is good, the Hunter 7 Foundation. It's my way to continue serving, that little step back into the military community that I miss so much. And it was great, because what we realized was there was a huge gap in knowledge. And so we were like, we can fill this gap. We can do these studies. We can figure this out. And then once I graduated and went into practice in the ER, we realized that a lot of civilian providers have no idea about veteran health care. And so with 30% of post 9/11 veterans utilizing the VA, majority of them seek care outside. Like I think Chachi just ended up going to the VA recently.
Yep.
And so for somebody like him who's so high risk, we need to do better in screening and preventing and educating our veterans on the civilian side as well. And so then it became a research education organization. And then once we got on social media and just started talking to people here and there, especially during COVID when everybody was stuck in the house, and we got to know a lot of people through social media, and
that's how we connected.
And we just saw a huge gap in healthcare. Veterans who are sick with terminal cancers at young ages, in their 20s and their 30s, veterans who have had cancer 3 to 4 times. And so we're like, okay, we'll do research, education, and we'll help these people that need it most through immediate needs. And so that's kind of where we started. And then, of course,
what year did you actually found the organization?
The organization was founded in December of 2018.
Okay, so not super long ago.
Not super long ago.
That was like my second to last year in Hawaii.
Yep.
So you were just starting the thing out when I was getting stateside again. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to track some of this stuff, but it's interesting. I mean, you guys have come a long way in a short period of time, relatively speaking. That's only 8 years.
Is it? It feels like it was just
Probably
yesterday.
feels like, yeah, I bet.
It feels like it was just yesterday.
I bet. I actually learned a little bit more about the background of the organization just now than I've known beforehand.
It has a deep purpose, and I mean, I think we attract people that have a same mindset. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that we see is a lot of the veterans and service members that come through our program and get support if they have cancer or screening, they want to work with the organization and volunteer and give back because it's their way to continue serving, Yeah. And
staying connected.
And absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things. And it's funny. I'm not perfect. I'm clearly, my driving record's terrible. I'm a sinner. I probably drink too much. I check. I say probably. I didn't. But I think, and it's funny because you'll come to the foundation and people are like, "You guys are all so different." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the land of misfit toys, literally." And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so we just have a way of making things work and giving individuals purpose behind what we do, and I don't want people to donate to the mission. I want them to believe in the mission.
Yeah.
I want them to see the impact that they make because it's truly life-saving. So
you guys have been doing a lot to help a lot of people.
The military is inherently so tribal. So whether it's Marine Corps or Army, Air Force, then even that with inside the MOSs, or whether you're SOF or non-SOF or all that stuff. So sadly, the worst part about this is, cancer is agnostic. And it'll hit all of those. So it's nice for us to be able to hit all of those communities. It doesn't matter to us if you're a GWAT veteran that served. We're here. We can't swing a dead cat and not hit 10 people that's been affected by cancer.
Yeah.
So being able to be out there and put that to good use and leverage what she built is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now, Chachi, you were in the Air Force, right?
I was there.
What's your story, Chachi?
Yeah. So I joined. It was funny. I'm not from a military family whatsoever, and just kind of one of those lost high school kids, not good at school. My freshman year is when Desert Storm happened. So I saw the Air Force and all the airstrikes. Well, that's kind of cool. That was in the back of my mind. And then my senior year is when Black Hawk Down happened.
Okay.
So I remember
was that
being
1993.
That was October '93.
Yeah.
So I remember being on the TV watching the body of Bill Cleveland get drugged through the streets of
it was on the
Mogadishu, right?
Time magazine put it on the cover, right?
And so watching that live, I'm like, what? I didn't even know that place existed. I'm like, we've got people there, and coming to find out, we had airmen there. And so my senior year, so I joined, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I joined to jump out of planes. And that was it. So boom, I found myself in a special warfare career field, and so calling in airstrikes as a TAC-P, and then certified JTAC, and so did airstrikes for the Army for roughly 20 of my 25 years.
So what he's basically trying to say is he was a cool guy when he was in. All right,
JTACs
are cool guys.
in my circles, I am probably the least cool guy you will ever meet, and so I appreciate that. All my guys have better war stories or badassery and all that stuff. And I'm the least, that trigger puller type of dude. I had a decent career, admittedly, but nowhere near my circle of friends. And so, yeah.
Well, when did you actually enlist, though?
So I enlisted in August of '94 and retired in July of '19.
Of 19, wow.
19.
So you saw most of the whole global war on terror.
Yeah, I think officially global war on terror ended in like 18 or 19, something like that. So I retired as like a 2-time command chief master sergeant, and then just I had young kids at the time. They were 12 and 3, and I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be present. So I wanted to be present. So retired. 6 months later, we have an oopsie baby who's now 5 years old, because I don't know how sex works, but so I mean he's our DEFCON 5-year-old.
DEFCON 5-year-old.
So now my kids are 20, 11, and 5, and it's just amazing to be around them every day. So very, very thankful I hung it up when I did.
That's funny. What did you start off doing when you first joined the Air Force?
So started out, and first assignment was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and so like just airstrikes as far as that goes. So
Is that like Pope Air Force?
Yeah,
Base?
Pope Air Force Base. Back when it was an Air Force base, now it's just Pope Field.
Okay.
As part of Bragg as we've downsized.
Yeah.
So I did 6 years there, both with the 82nd, and then I did 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group.
Oh wow, you were with 1-3.
I was.
Okay.
And then from there, my career just kind of went all kinds of different places. I went to Camp Casey in Korea for a year. Went to Fort Carson in Colorado Springs for 2.5 years. I invaded Iraq out of there. From there, I went to an Army training center in Germany called Hohenfels. And I stood up the JTAC, like a European JTAC schoolhouse over there.
Wow.
And then from there, as the Army's 1st Armored Division was reflagging down in El Paso at Fort Bliss, went down to set up the TACP squadron there. And then from there, I went to Osan Air Base in Korea. My first Air Force assignment I'd been in for 16 years.
I've been to Osan.
Yeah, it's a great place.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I think we might have gotten Marines banned from going to Osan, though. Our battalion went out there and acted stupid because we're, a Marine infantry battalion staying on an Air Force base. Like, it's like that's just a recipe for disaster.
And that strip of restaurants and bars right out front it's so convenient.
Yeah, we had some silly problems with that, but either way, they had a good gym. They had Wi-Fi, and each individual room had its own Wi-Fi. I was like, holy crap, man! We were living in the field before that for a couple months, and then for like a month, and then we got there and we're living nice, man. Living in some old condemned barracks, which were like basic average Marine barracks.
Luxury condos.
Yeah, it was
to
like
a Marine
luxury
or soldier.
apartments. Yeah, it's cool, man. So how long were you in Osan for?
So I was at Osan for a year.
Okay.
And then from there I went to Fort Riley, Kansas. Then I went to Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam.
Okay.
So I was there for 2.5 years, and then from there, through just some great opportunities and good mentorship, that's where I made E9, and then from there I got picked up to be like a command chief type. Then I went to Jersey at the 305th Air Mobility Wing to be a command chief master sergeant there. Then Aliyah Salim in Kuwait. Was like the garrison CSM type dude there.
Really?
And that's where I decided to hang up their career. Took one last assignment to Fort Hood, Texas, and then retired out of there.
Okay, I've been to Aliyah Salim too. That was like I had to go to Ali to go from there into Iraq.
Yeah, like everything flew through.
Yeah, everything
Ali
flew.
and everyone.
Yeah. After I didn't go to Iraq or CENTCOM until 2023, so I missed the entire the whole major campaigns. Just the way the cookie crumbles, you know what I mean? Like all my first 3 deployments were to Okinawa. We did the unit deployment program. Like we would deploy as a battalion out there, we'd stay there, and then we would just train all over the island, or we would go to Korea or Malaysia or the Philippines or Thailand or mainland Japan. And so my first opportunity to actually go to CENTCOM was long after everything had been over. But at that time, they were just, you didn't drive into Iraq. You were flying from Ali, and then you would, bounce into a couple different places depending on where you were going. If you were going to Syria, or if you were going to Iraq, which Syria is a whole can of worms right now. You've probably seen what's been going on over there. But so when did you actually figure out, like, I want to be a TAC-P, I want to be a JTAC? Like, when did that stuff come into your mind?
So it just kind of started. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I was too immature to go to college, and I knew I needed structure, but I didn't know what that looked like. So I went in to see the recruiter, and he's like, hey, do you want to fix planes? Because that's what a lot of enlisted folks do when they join the Air Force. Like, I'm not a wrench turner at all, but nothing but respect for those guys. Like, those are excruciating conditions that, like, I would not want any of that. So if you're out there, you're a maintainer, God bless you for what you do.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, do you want to do this, that, the other thing? And then he's like, do you want to be a cop? I'm like, do I was like, do I get a gun? They're like, yeah, you get a gun. I'm like, great. Like, I'm happy to do that. And then I was walking out, they had the stuff for like pararescue and combat control. Like, I want to do that. I didn't hear about TAC-P at the time. And so like, yeah. And I see a guy doing a halo jump and like a full Delta, oxygen mask, ruck, weapon. I'm like, yes, like I want all of that.
Look badass.
Yeah, right. So that kind of put me on that path, and then fast forward a year, there I'm at Fort Bragg, and graduated our tech school, went to airborne school en route, show up at the 82nd. I'm there for a few years, So by the time I was a E4, I was a master blaster. I had Halo wings. I'd been to air assault school. I'd been to at the time Marine Corps didn't have MIC-MAP. They had the line instructor,
training, yeah.
right? So I was a line certified instructor.
No kidding.
Went down to Camp Geiger to learn all that. So
At Camp Geiger.
yeah. I met
an
all the
airman.
Geiger Tigers. Yeah,
There's a funny picture
That's
of
so
him
crazy.
drop kicking somebody.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, it was
it's great.
grab, twist, pull, grab, and all that. The Ron Don Vito stuff.
Yeah.
He was amazing with us, and the Marines were super great. William Abkin was in my class, who sadly ended up dying a year later at Halo School. Who burned it? But Abby was a great dude, and I loved all my time down at Camp Geiger.
That's cool, man. I had no idea that you went to anywhere near Camp Lejeune. It's very unusual to find an airman on a Marine base.
Yes.
So obviously you were a special type of airman.
Sure.
If you're on a Marine base doing some stuff.
But again, in my circles, not so much. But we're all airmen who do that. So and it's weird. And every single one of my friends has that weird niche little thing that happened to them or experience that they got to have, whether it was SOF or all those things. And it was funny because when I joined the Air Force, I got out of basic training and I get into NDOC, and then two of the people that were in that class, like the people I met right when I got out of basic training, one was SEAC number 4, Ray Colon Lopez.
No kidding.
I met him as a senior airman.
Wow.
And Dave Goggins.
Oh, cool.
So we're all in training together, working out and doing all the before he got out and became a SEAL and all that stuff. So it's just really funny how my career started that, and just the great influence of good dudes I had around me to help shape me and mold me into the fun career that I had.
Yeah. Did you end up going to 5th Group when you were in Colorado?
I deployed with 5th Group a few times, and then 10th is in Colorado.
Oh, sorry, 10th. Sorry. 5th is in Fort Campbell.
In Campbell.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Mixed that up.
But I did not. My roommate Dave Bickle, who lives here in Vegas, was a 10th grouper for years and years.
Okay. Yeah, I know. So I have very limited experience with TAC-Ps or with JTACs. The only JTACs I ever worked alongside. I didn't really work alongside them. They were on the base that I was briefly at for a little bit doing some stuff. But we did. They did an airdrop while we were out there, which was really cool. It was like a night airdrop. They were dropping supplies when I was in the middle of Syria, which was really cool. The JTAC dudes were super professional. They were talking to the aircraft, talking them onto the airstrip. Dropped a bunch of pallets out of Class 1, basically, mostly. And we just rounded it all up, and it was a really organized chaos. We had a bunch of little hoopties driving around there, 4-bangers and Toyota Land Cruisers and Toyota Tacomas and stuff, and that was kind of cool. Those guys were really professional. That was the only experience I'd ever had with them, was just kind of more than anything. I wasn't working with them. I was just kind of observing them do their work, and they were super professional. They knocked it out of the park. And obviously that particular location, U.S. forces have since left, which is interesting to think about. I'm sure that you've probably had similar thoughts about. Al Assad Air Base recently was turned over to the Iraqis, which is the first time in 20 years. That's one of the few bases where a person and their child could have ended up at the same base at some point in time.
We went over in 2003 to take over Al Assad from the soft dudes, and I was with 3rd at the time Armored Cavalry Regiment. So I was living at Al Assad, in the summer of 2003.
See, that's so crazy.
Just watching all that stuff happen. I remember I'd have to go in PT and carry my sidearm just for all the wild dogs that were running around. It was just a whole different understanding of warfare at that time. Not knowing it would turn into nearly 20 years of sustained combat operations.
Yeah, and they built it up so much. I think Al Assad at one point belonged to Saddam Hussein for a little bit before we took it from him, and then we were using it as a base of operations to conduct Operation Iraqi Freedom out of. Because it was, they had a good airstrip. They had a bunch of space there that they could build up and build defenses up and stuff like that. But so you had a very interesting career. She said you had a really good story you wanted to share with us about Saddam specifically during the operation.
He doesn't like sharing it. I love hearing it.
Well, so the thing, it's important to note that this ended up not being the case, right? As people would know. But there was a small period of time where it was possible that people thought through the night. I ended up, I was back in my barracks in my Ranger panties and flip flops in my E7, my E5 at the time. And he's like, you need to get on the radio now. Like, you have aircraft check-in. I'm like, I haven't. He's like, no, hop on now. I'm like, for what? He's like, hop on now. We'll figure it out. So I get on there and I start talking to this aircraft. And I'm like, hey, just stand by. I'm waiting on words. Fast forward 10 hours and we destroyed this whole like Ba'athist compound in Western Iraq, like right on the Syrian border. I have no idea. So they're like, hey.
Oh, even further west than Al Anbar.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like at the far side, a little bit south of Al Qaim, right at that bend with Iraq and Syria. So like just few miles south of there as far as that goes. So anyway, like there's a whole lot of different stuff, and I said, hey, you're allowed to do this or not do that. Like, no, we're fine. It was just really malleable situation, and I find out the next day that at the time they thought that there could have been a decent chance that Saddam Hussein was in there.
Oh, wow.
And obviously this turned out not to be the case.
Okay.
Not to be the case. But I was leaving to go home for a month just to come right back, just the way the Air Force was doing as they were figuring out what, we won so early in Iraq. So, was getting ready to leave. So I land in Baghdad and the bosses debrief and pull us aside and like, hey, what happened? Who's this? Da-da-da. So I left thinking there's a decent chance that this was going to be this could have been a thing, and it's not. So again, completely underwhelming story. But in my mind, for a week or two, I thought I could have been somebody special.
How long did you spend in Iraq?
For an 03, we got there in like April.
Okay.
And I went back and I came back again. Or I left finally in December. So 7-8 months for the invasion type area. Okay. So we had like the western third of Iraq. So when I first drove into Al Taqaddum, we were in Fallujah, we're in Ramadi, all that stuff with third. And so we had that western 1/3, and then we got kind of tasked to work with the 82nd as well, and did all that stuff. And right at the tail end of that, as we ripped out with 3rd ACR, that's when the Marines came in, and that's when all the stuff that you see in 04 and
which was the second Battle of Fallujah, which was the crazy stuff. Yeah.
You bet. And like I was driving around in Fallujah in a soft skin Humvee in 03, really? Like it was no big deal.
Changed a lot.
Unreal.
It's crazy how much that changed. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of platoon sergeants. My first 2 platoon actually, my first 3 platoon sergeants were all Fallujah vets. Some of them had been in there in 03, some of them in 04. And they had some very interesting stories for sure. But obviously that was I was still in high school in 03 and 04. I was just about to graduate in 05. So I, missed out on a lot of that stuff. And I wasn't ready for the military at that point. Yeah, I was still a troublemaker, doing stupid, a lot like you said, misfit toys, Grew up, I personally just like kind of short. I grew up, pretty modest family. We were on food stamps and stuff when I was a kid. We weren't super wealthy or anything. My parents worked their asses off. And I never really had any aspirations for the military for a while. And then I ended up moving in probably in 2007-08 with a guy who was an Army Ranger during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. And he kind of like inspired me to want to become something bigger than myself. And I wanted to be a Ranger at first. And I tried to get in the Army for about 5 years or so, and it just kept getting turned down because I'd had these misdemeanors on my record that I couldn't get rid of, and so it just didn't work out. And I went to the Marine Corps, ended up getting in within a year. They had me in recruit training. Took about 7 years total between when I first started and when I actually got to recruit training. So it's a miracle that it ever ended up working out, and to the point that I got to where I'm at now, which is pretty much a miracle as well. But very different situation. Like I said, my first time in CENTCOM was in 2023, completely different than when you were there 20 years after, like I'd landed in Al-Assad on the way up to Erbil, in 2023, like for a customs check, and then spent most of my time in Erbil, went back and forth between Syria a few times, and got to experience a little bit of that, which is like as close as you're going to get to being like, out there, like in the real austere environments and stuff, which makes this whole situation with Syria much more personal for me because I actually spent time there, worked with these guys, and saw some of the things that some of the places that are being mentioned in the news now, which I'm sure that, a lot of the folks that spent time in Afghanistan that fought and bled there and had friends they lost there and stuff like that had a lot of very strong emotions about everything that happened there. I'm sure a lot of the Iraq vets probably have different feelings because the situation in Iraq is very different than Syria and Afghanistan. But still, there's a lot of interesting, things that cross your mind when you think about some of these things, just because like life keeps going, things change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. It's just kind of an interesting thing I've reflected on over the past couple of days. It's just been kind of weird. Like I was out there in the eastern area just because like we're doing some work out in the eastern. They used to refer to it as the Eastern Syrian Security Area. The ESSA is what they called it, because that was like where most of the Syrian Democratic Forces were, which was our partner force. And we worked with them pretty closely. I didn't work with them as closely as some of the guys that were on the team that I was a part of, but there's a lot of interesting history in that region. I'd love to see it turn into like the UAE. I'd love to see them turn the whole country into like something similar to the UAE, where they're able to tap into their natural resources like oil and gas that's all over the place, and then like fix the infrastructure and the electricity and get the place up and running. I mean, Damascus is one of the most ancient cities on civilization.
Storied city.
Storied city, exactly. Like if they could get their together, make it safe, and fix everything up, man, they could get tourism in there like nobody's business, dude, because people would want to visit these biblical cities that existed in Mesopotamia, for Christ's sake. I mean, like you probably spent some time in places in Iraq that were part of Mesopotamia.
Saddam's palace in Ramadi. I'm sitting there right off the
Ramadi.
In Ramadi, like right off the Euphrates River. Like, I am in Mesopotamia.
It's crazy.
Like, I can't, so that was weird. And then driving up to Tikrit, right, the time.
Tikrit,
and the Tigris right there. So just seeing that, like, I can't believe that throughout history I find myself here.
Yeah, it was weird. I was flying back from Syria one night, and we flew right past Mosul. Like, we flew right past it. You could see the whole city with the river right there, the Tigris. And that was nuts, man. Just like seeing that, knowing all the stuff that happened there over the past 15 years of history and like the battles that were fought there. And I'm like, I'm in this Black Hawk flying past this major city. I'm like, when you see how big the city is, it gives you a better frame of reference on like how crazy it must have been in like the 2010s, 2011, 2012, when like the big resurgence was happening with ISIS and everything like that. That's kind of a side note, but these are just like some things I've been thinking about the past couple of days, just because everything that's been going on. I mean, the news. Obviously, like I talk about a lot of current events and stuff like that, so it's just something
which I really have to say, like, I appreciate how you deliver it.
I appreciate
it, like without a spin,
unbiased,
right? And kind of unbiased, and again, even without a military spin, it's just presented information, and it's thought provoking as you engage the audience. So, on behalf of us and our friends, thank you for doing that and speaking truth to power. For just these are. For what we can reasonably dictate is like the facts of what's going on in the world.
That's where I get my news source. I don't watch TV.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It means a lot.
You bet.
There's a lot of guys doing the same thing. I think some people do it better than I do, but I try to do the best I can. And I think that, especially folks that are in the military or affiliated with folks in the military, it's like kind of important that we know what's going on in the world, because that could dictate where you end up going. Or where you might find yourself one day or something like that. And I mean, like you said, you were watching the news when the Gulf War was going on, and you're like, little did you know, maybe one day you'd end up out there doing stuff, Yeah,
unreal.
Yeah.
Just like still to this day, I can't believe it.
It's great. It's crazy. I mean, like, time speeds up as you get older, but like things happen very rapidly. They develop very rapidly. Like you saw how quickly the former Syrian regime fell. When all the people were sweeping down the countryside, and I mean, it fell in a matter like less than a week, and that's how quick they were just rolling through stuff. But
the TACPs in Baghdad who heard that, and they're like, "Hey, Chachi may have done something like, but
he might have
Chachi's,
smoked
he may have smoked." So they knew I was flying back into Ramstein, like area. It was actually Frankfurt. So they called the TACPs station there, like take him out and party. So, I'd been I was going through a divorce. I was just recently divorced, found out while I was over there. Like this has been going on for years. And so, like, a good divorce, as far as that goes. But land in Germany thinking I just whacked Saddam.
Yeah.
Haven't been, so the guys take me to the red light district.
Oh, no. Jesus. Yeah, and the story evolves from there.
Yes.
Jeez. But I'm sure there's Ramstein's a pretty big base. I landed in Ramstein actually on the way back from from Kuwait when I was returning from CENTCOM. They had to refuel the plane, and so we landed at Ramstein to refuel, and we stayed there for a couple hours while they filled the plane back up. But I know a few people that are stationed out there. It's not a bad spot.
It's I was just there. I also do leadership consulting, and I've been building, like, I've got a book coming out soon. Like I was just over teaching at Garmisch, the military resort in southern Germany, teaching all of our, like, the Air Force, the European Air Force dudes, the survival, evasion, resistance, escape guys. Okay. So I teaching there, and I brought the wife over. So we were in the Ramstein area, staying with friends, and drove through where I used to live outside Regensburg, then down to Munich for a night, then down to southern Germany. Right? Just if you've never been to Garmisch, that resort in southern Germany, it is amazing.
Yeah,
it's like the Halikoa in Hawaii.
Okay.
Just in Germany.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know the Halikoa. It's like a military focused like resort.
Yeah, right there on Waikiki.
That's cool. Yeah, we stayed. Yeah. I stayed there a couple nights. I'm pretty sure at some point. It's right there on the beach.
Yes.
Yeah, we mean, obviously, in Hawaii we spent quite a bit of time on the weekends in Waikiki whenever we had opportunities. We weren't out training or in the field or something like that.
Did you golf at the Kaneohe Clipper?
No, so I've never been a golfer. I've gone to like the driving ranges and stuff. I've just never been able to get into golfing because I'm probably too bad. I hate myself enough already to golf. You know what I mean?
But I think it's hole number 13, where it's nothing but beach and ocean on the right side.
Yeah,
like a long par. I love golfing there. Yeah, like any family or friends that came over for any amount of time that they golfed, I'm like, we're gonna go play the Clipper.
Yeah,
we just had a great time.
Well, a lot of people like going and golfing there. It's like one of the nicest golf courses the military has. Like 100%. Yeah, from what I've been told anyway. But so. What did the structure look like as far as like once you guys founded the organization? Like, was your brother already working with you? Like,
so my brother never worked with me with Hunter 7.
Oh, okay.
So interestingly, and he's pretty open about this. When he deployed twice to Sangin, and again, we came from not the best childhood, a lot of addiction, a lot of substance use. And when my brother came home, one of his best friends ended up losing both of his legs and received the Silver Star for heroic actions. And, my brother was blown up in an MRAP, flipped over, knocked out. I was actually reading his citation the other day because he never received a Purple Heart, and a whole chain of events occurred. But he was self-medicating after his second deployment, and he ended up leaving service because of substance use, and overdosed and was in a coma after using heroin for a few weeks. He's clean and sober now, but lots of issues pertaining to, and not just him, but a lot of the guys from 6th Marine Regiment. But no, he never worked on the Hunter 7 team. It was an idea, and we didn't know what we were gonna do. Like. I thought a nonprofit was, hey, we're not going to profit from it. It's going to cost us money to do this. Like I was under the assumption that nonprofits were self-sustaining, like that we would find a way to make this work, like financially. And so I had no experience in nonprofit work at all. Myself and Sherry and my husband Kyle, we were all just like, okay, yeah, let's do this project. It should be fun. We can help people. And so we never expected it to get this big, or we never expected it to be needed this much. And so it was very small makeup, and then shortly after, COVID happened and everything was kind of slowed down because we were all working in the hospitals. And so finally, when COVID kind of took a turn and started to level out, I was in grad school, got my graduate degree in nursing, and then went back to Georgetown for my doctorate, and which I'm still doing. And over time, it kind of grew, and the first one to come on our team was Keith. He actually owns Dead Reckoning Collective. He's an author. He's one of the publishers. Yeah,
he's one of the Dead Reckoning Collective
That's
guys?
Keith.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And God bless him. Keith is a great guy.
Yeah, we've talked a lot of times because oftentimes he's delegated to take care of a lot of these things.
Right.
While you're off taking care of other things, yeah.
And Keith came into Hunter 7, I think he was an undergrad, or maybe he had just completed undergrad and was going to grad school for his social work, his master's in social work.
Oh, wow.
And he came through, it was during COVID, and he came through and did an internship with Hunter 7 to do clinical hours. And so...
Because he has an Instagram page for Dead Reckoning Collective, yeah.
Yep. And he's
I don't know why I never knew that.
yeah.
That's a small world, man.
Keith is a great guy.
What branch was he in?
Keith was in the Army. He's a
was he?
Iraq war vet. Yeah.
Okay.
He was an MP. We make fun of him. Blue Falcon.
Oh,
Loser.
Jesus.
Keith is a great guy. He's
Yeah.
a great husband, great father. And so, again, but when you see Keith, he's covered in tattoos and he has that look on his face because he's from New England. And like the
Yeah.
rest of us from New England, we're very
Just intimidating.
intimidating. And we're
I don't know.
not.
I'm from New England too, but I don't think I'm. Maybe if people don't know me and I'm just like walking around with a
Maybe.
blank face, I don't know.
He's covered in tattoos. I mean,
Yeah.
So people see Keith but he's just a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
And so he's been with us since 2019, 2020.
Oh wow.
Yeah, oh yeah. And it's like once you're in, you don't leave.
Yeah, you're part of the family now, boy.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously. Seriously.
Yeah.
And so, like, it just kind of grew over time. And so, I mean, we just acquire people,
Yeah.
Chelsea acquires people.
I acquire people.
Like
I'm a
for
people
all their
acquirer.
like just all her energy and passion.
Like
she
imprints
just collects
on people.
Yeah, 100%.
I collect people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I do like collecting people. But, like Bill, for example, Chachi and I flew into North Carolina after the floods, and we all met up in this weird parking lot
of the middle school.
and we were
whatever that was.
sleeping
Elementary school, yeah.
in the parking lot of the middle school. And then
You were there.
Yeah.
He was there.
That's where I first
Yep,
met
yep.
you in person. That's right. I forgot
Yeah.
that you guys were all. I almost forgot you guys all came to that parking lot.
I'll never forget it.
That was no, I'll never forget it. But yeah, that was what was that? What month was that? Was that?
That was
October.
September.
September.
Yeah, like mid to late September of 24.
Oh no! So September was when the hurricane hit because
Yeah.
I was in Atlanta. October, I was able to get up there 10 days after the hurricane hit,
Yep.
and I think you guys got up there like the 11th or 12th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was when we all kind of met up in that parking lot.
And we all we flew in to Green Mountain and Toe River Road, and
Was that while you were there? That one flight you
that
went
one
out.
flight.
That was into Green Mountain. So
Well,
you that
yeah.
one helicopter we were flying around in everywhere.
and we landed, and I went up to do my medical thing, and I was just checking on everybody because it was devastation. You could smell death in the air, like devastation. There's a certain smell of disaster. And I remember Bill walked up in Crocs from Walmart in shorts, and he was like, "Hi, I'm Bill." And I'm like, "Do you live here?"
Do you, Bill,
I was
you
like,
live here?
I was like, I don't. I was like, "You don't look like you live here." And he's like, "No," because he's covered in tattoos, and he kind of told me the story, and he just ended up there after needing a way to continue serving, being a Green Beret, medically retired after being shot in Afghanistan, and he just went up to this area to help out these people, offer them gas, and he ended up spending the night there. And then every night, because looters would come and try to take these people's things, and
Looters were coming at that time
big
still.
time. Big time.
Wow.
And-
yeah, I remember hearing stories that was a real problem for a minute there after that in Western
And then people
Carolina.
would come in and just flex their mouth like, no, we're going to run this.
Yeah.
Like with
It
no
was weird.
authority whatsoever.
It was just
and try
weird.
and dominate and impose their will. It was odd.
And Bill was like, and I know I hate the term, but like he was like the sheepdog. Like he literally slept outside. He didn't, and he told me it saved his life. And so Bill is with us at SHOT Show. Like he's like a brother to me now.
Didn't we talk to Bill today?
Yeah.
That's
Billiam.
right. Okay, yeah, that's right. He's got kind of a full beard now, right?
Yep.
He does.
Yeah.
He's a great human.
gray hair now, right?
And so he's I stress him out, so he's got a little bit of the gray hair going on. But
He's a very nice guy.
We
Yeah,
just collect good people.
Yeah, he walked up and he said, "Hey, I haven't seen you since Green River, I think." I was like, "Oh Jesus, damn, how you doing, man?" Like, it's been a long time since hell, it was like over a year ago since we saw each other. Yeah, so you met him; he was already there.
He was already there.
That's wild as hell.
Yep.
Just helping out.
Just helping out.
See, that's the thing.
And stayed for like 6 to 9 months.
He was there
like
on
legit.
his
Like
own.
would not go.
Yeah.
Just stayed and helped out because he's just that good of a person.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and, maybe there's. I was talking to a buddy of mine that works at, or that was one of the founders for the Operation Allies Refuge Foundation. One of the things that he brought up during that period of time, because we had a lot of conversations on the phone about everything going on up there. His whole crew, like a lot of his team was up there too, is that, especially veterans and people in our community, like doing things like that, especially for folks that may feel damaged, there's a healing aspect for you, the individual that's volunteering your time. It like heals you, helping people, doing something good for somebody else, doing something positive for people. It's like there's a healing aspect to that. And I think maybe that was part of what kept him staying there, was because he's like, this is helping me, helping
Absolutely.
these
Yeah,
people.
And I think that's why we all stay there. I mean, when I met Parzady Whitson, she was 97 years old, and I went up to her, and she just lost everything. She lost her home. Her family had to rescue her onto the second floor of their grocery. I won't even call it a grocery store. A store. They had to rescue her and bring her up to the second floor. She lost everything, and I said to her, I was like, I checked her out medically, and I said, "Are you okay? What can I do for you?" And she says to me, "Look around." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I'm surrounded by loved ones. I have everything I need." And it hit me it blew me back, and I was like, wow. And so I was like, hey, we're going to rebuild this woman's house.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, damn it, Chelsea, because once I get my mindset on something.
We're going to rebuild this lady's house.
And I said to Bill, and so, we shared her story, and somebody from her family snapped a picture of me leaning down, and I had to flip down my sunglasses, because I started crying after she said that to me, because it just hit me different. Like, wow, like what a reality check to have just heard that.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was like, I'll be back, and I think they thought I was kidding, and I went back and I shared the situation, and I said to Bill, I was like, he barely knew me. I said, I want to rebuild this woman's house. And, she had 5 kids, and 2 of her 5 kids lost their homes as well. And so we must protect Tulsi Gabbard, the former, congresswoman. That's her nonprofit that she handed off to her sister, and her sister rebuilt their homes. As of today, their homes are rebuilt. And, these are the things you don't hear about. And so Parzady Whitson, I went back and I shared her story, and the owner of First Form, Andy Frisella, he was like, you know what, here's $25,000 to start. And we bought everything that was needed, and just people would volunteer, and Bill would oversee it and help volunteer, and he lived there for a while in a trailer, and we rebuilt her home, and she's doing excellent.
Yeah, I remember walking through the house when the poly plastic was still up everywhere. I mean, I looked we did kind of a walkthrough kind of vlog of what everything looked like about, when we first got in there. I don't think I got to go up to the Green River area until my second time in, which was Veterans Day weekend, because I took that 96 and just drove up from Camp Lejeune to go up there, because I was like, well, I've got 4 days off and I don't need to take leave, so this is a good opportunity to go up there. So I went up there, and that was the first chance I got to go see the actual Green River house, or Green Mountain house, and or the store, and like the post office and everything like that was all gutted by the time I got there, of course, and they had already been laying in floors, and they pointed out the water line and how high up it was at one point, which is just insane to think about once I saw where the river was when I got there, because it was way down this embankment. It had washed out the entire other side of the road, which had a bunch of buildings on it and stuff, and that was all gone, sucked into the river. It was pretty moving seeing that. We actually, right up the road from there in, what's it called? Something Island. Double Island. You remember Double Island?
No.
So Double Island was just past that store, up the road, maybe 10 minutes. Might not even been 10 minutes. It was just about 10 minutes out from there. You just kept going and following the road to the left when it forked off. And Double Island was this very small, it's barely even a township. They had like a volunteer fire department. That's it. But there was an old concert venue up there that had a whole bunch of land on it. And that was where we set up, I think, 14 out of 21 or however many tents we bought. I think I'd raised like around $80,000 across everything. Not just for the tents, but for the whole situation in Western Carolina. And I think $21K or $22K went towards tents. These canvas tents that we bought stoves for that you could burn wood inside of too. And we brought them up there and we donated, I think, 15 of them. I want to say like 10, 15 of them to that spot, that concert venue. And that guy had a bunch of Amish folks come down and stay in those tents through the winter to build tiny homes for people. Yeah. So that was like a chain of events that led to other stuff happening. And maybe I wasn't having a direct impact, like helping people with shelter, but it housed people that were coming down to volunteer time to build, and it gave them a place to like stay while they were there. Yeah. So that was really cool. And that was just right up the street from the Green Mountain spot.
You mentioned that you didn't have a direct impact, but you know, I one thing I realized is like it's free 99 to be a good person. And you know, like those little things, like seeing what Bill did triggered me to do what I did, what triggered Chachi to do what he did, you know. Yeah. And so I mean, like, it's not hard to be a good person.
No. I mean, maybe for some people it might be harder for some people than others, but it should come naturally, because most people, that when you do good for other people, it makes you feel good.
You bet.
It's almost one could refer to it as like a selfish thing, because it's like, really I want to help people because it makes me feel good. It helps me feel good.
So it's funny that you say that.
It's weird. It's like considered. You can almost look at it like
as a selfish act.
But that's like a good selfish act, because it's like you're doing good things for other people because of how it makes you feel as a human being, and it also, like I said, it heals you.
People say to me, they're like, "You're so incredible for doing what you're doing," and I'm like, "Well, that's up for debate."
That's up for debate.
You know, like. But I tell them, they're like, you know, how much do you get paid? And I'm like, $700.77 a year. You know, like, this is not what I do for work.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, you're such a good person. And I'm like, it's actually really selfish, because it's my way to make sure that I have something keeping me grounded so I don't kill myself.
Yeah.
And when I tell them that, they're like, oh. And I'm like, no, seriously. Like, how can you continue serving? How can you continue to make a difference? Not just for those around you, but for yourself. Yeah. You know, and like, I always ask people, I'm like, what's your purpose? Oh, well, I'm a mechanic. That's not your purpose. That's your job. What do you do that gives you, you know, that makes you you? What is your purpose? What do you do for other people that doesn't benefit yourself?
What leaves you feeling fulfilled?
And nobody can tell me that. Nobody can answer that question.
Most people have a hard time finding what that thing is.
And that's okay.
One of my all-time favorite questions to ask people is, what would you do in life if money were no object and you knew you could not fail?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people ask that question, like, they don't have that answer, which is absolutely fine. But there's value in knowing that you don't have an answer.
Yeah.
So just know that you're kind of, you know, doing something until you find your purpose or find your vision or all that stuff. But like that's a good gut check for people who want to know if they're contributing or any of those things. If you don't have a solid answer, you know, maybe take some time and ruminate on that and think, hey, maybe I can be doing something. Maybe I need to help Hunter 7, or maybe I need help any of the other 45,000 different veteran-centric nonprofits out there. Like anything can help.
Yeah.
If you told me when I was in jail at 17 years old, on my, you know, still should have graduated high school a year earlier, if you would have ever told me that this is where I'd be today, to this day, I wouldn't believe you. I didn't think I was going to live this long, to be honest. And so...
Yeah.
It may seem scary, it may seem impossible, it may seem like it's out of reach, but everybody has a purpose. You just have to find it.
That's the hard part, is finding what your purpose is. But when you find it, you'll know.
You'll know.
And you need to viciously attack that purpose from that point on.
That's it.
Even if it's just in an ancillary way, because that's what will lead to real fulfillment, I feel like, at least for me. I feel more fulfilled when I'm doing something to help people. Obviously, I can't help everybody. You know, in my band, I am only one person. I only have so much bandwidth, and oftentimes, unfortunately, you have to have money to do some of these things, right? So you have to figure out a way to make it sustainable, you know, but ultimately, like, doing good things for other people is what leaves me feeling most fulfilled. And I like being around other people that feel the same way, you know, because then you're around a bunch of people that are like-minded and typically positive folks, you know.
Yes, and that's like, for me, it's the, you know, the energy you put out into the universe is the energy that comes back to you.
Yes.
And I find that the more positive that I try and be, or the more helpful I try and be, the more positivity I get, or the more help that I get in return in whatever, you know, aspect of my life.
Yeah. So, side note, we do cancer screening, we do blood draws, and I remember I said to Chachi, I was like, you know, you're at risk. This is before he came onto the team. He was still at Black Rifle. I said, Chachi, you're at an increased risk. Like, you drop bombs for a living. You know, like, maybe you should get screened. And I did a baseline blood panel, you know, your typical routine CBC, BMP, cholesterol, all that good stuff. And I looked at it and I was like, this is the healthiest tack pee I've ever.
This is
And
the
so
healthiest tack.
I was like, nah. I was like, no way. You know, we know
No
the air.
way. What?
No way.
You see that guy?
Yeah.
There's a guy on TikTok or Instagram. He's like, what?
No, what?
He'll
No
what?
way.
What? No way.
For
sakes.
Yeah, that's me.
That
He's
is
great.
literally
Yeah.
the male version of Chelsea.
And so I was like, this is the healthiest, man. And I was like, we know the Air Force has the highest rates of cancers out of post 9/11 branches, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I was like, I went up to him and I was like, Chachi, I just want to let you know your blood work came back excellent. He's like, well, my blood type is B positive. I was like, oh my God, I can't.
Like, I don't have a blood type. I've got an attitude.
That is the
Right.
most dad joke thing I've ever heard. That's great.
And I stopped and I was like, oh my God. I was like,
Oh my God.
oh my God. But then we did his MRI and he has a fatty liver. So,
So
Wrong.
turns out I'm not perfect.
Well,
but he still tells his wife
I'm
he's
trying
perfect.
to reconcile that,
Yeah.
you know.
fatty
Who knows?
livers where a lot of fat gets deposited, man.
But
anywhere.
a lot of the times in the Air Force, which
Really?
yeah, which is weird.
Huh. I wonder if there's
PFAS.
a
It's all
correlation
PFAS.
to that. PFAS? What
PFAS.
does PFAS stand for?
Google it. No, it's
Okay.
polyfluoral. It's just forever chemicals, forever plastics. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Like microplastics. Like they think
Huge
we're
problem.
eating a credit card of plastic a week or something crazy like that.
That's a lot.
And it's
That's
shrinking your
excessive.
taints. Apparently.
Oh, did you talk to Kyle? I feel like you talked to my husband.
No,
about
I
this.
listened to a Joe Rogan episode, and he talked to a lady that wrote a whole book on it, how men's taints are shrinking across all of
don't-
Americans. About it's like, how did you do that test?
How did you?
How did that test
What?
get ran?
Where is this published? I would like to read this chain test.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
but
know.
no,
I don't know. Anyway, so let's get back to when did you start getting a crew together? Like, when did you start accumulating like people for the team, and like how did you build that thing out, and how did you get kind of stuff the foundations of it?
Oh, so Sherry's always been a part of it. You know, she was my maternity professor. You know, one of my best friends. She's like a mother to me, a sister to me. You know, we'll die together. It's
She's on the
weird.
board?
So she's the co-founder.
Okay, one of the co-founders. Gotcha.
And her spouse Jay, also a 30-year veteran, both Army and Air Force. Both of them had cancer too, which we'll get into. Sherry's cancer is very interesting, but both cancer, Afghanistan service, Iraq, and so they were on the team. Kyle, Keith, and then Chachi. We were in Soft Week, and he stopped by the Airbnb we were at, and everything was great. Good day, easy
Like
day.
in 2024, it's soft week.
And then
Okay.
I sent him an email a week later, and it was like, your email couldn't be sent. Like, this email address no longer exists. And I was like, I texted him, I was like, in nicer terms, I was like, excuse me.
Oh, because it had the black rifle piece
Yeah,
under it? Oh,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
And so I was like, why? Well, where are you? What happened? And he's like, oh, I quit. And I was like, hired. I was like, you're hired.
You're hired. You're hired. I didn't apply for
It wasn't even an option.
It wasn't even an option.
Welcome to 107, baby. You're here now.
I was like, you just left philanthropy at Black Rifle. You're, again, his career, he underwhelms it significantly. I was like, you're an incredible father. You're an incredible husband, which are two critical things that I look at in people. Like, if you're a good husband, you're a good man. You know, if you're a good father, you're a good man. True story. I haven't been proven wrong yet. So
And you're a good father.
when you're a good father. So I was like, you're hired. And he's like, but I was like, no, that's how it works.
That's how it
Now
works.
you're-
That's how it
One
works.
of us. But
Yeah.
it's funny because like a good majority of our team are Army veterans, right?
Yeah.
Most of our team are Army veterans. Like Sherry is an Army veteran at heart, even though she went to the Air Force as an officer. She's Army at heart.
Yeah.
She embraces the suck. And so like we're used to sleeping in tents, like out in North Carolina. We're used to living at the bare minimum, like raccoons, you know,
Yeah.
like E4 Mafia raccoons. And so it's funny when Chachi comes on, it's like the Goonies when Sloth is like, what? And Chachi's the kid, and he's like, it's okay,
I'm Chunk.
He's like, you're gonna come live with me now. We're like, what? so yeah, he took on a bunch of rabid Army veteran raccoons and loves us, which God bless him.
No, I had known about Hunter 7 even before I worked at Black Rifle. They were helping one of my TACP teammates as he went through his cancer diagnosis, Luke Page, because I helped run our TACP nonprofit as well before I retired from the military. So I'd heard about Hunter 7. Then I worked with Hunter 7. Evan had reached out when one of his Green Beret guys had died. He's like, hey, who do you know at Hunter 7? I want to do something. And that's how that became the collaboration with the UFC. And so we worked together and talked and had a great time. And I would have never quit Black Rifle. I got saddled with a horrible boss, so I had to quit. But as far as like Evan, Matt, and JT, love those guys. Like their focus is pure, right? So I was the guy before Dean. And so Dean's rad, and we still have a great relationship with all those folks. So
yeah, I mean, like you guys work with Black Rifle all the time.
They're sponsoring some of the testing at SHOT Show.
Yeah, well, I think that's great that you guys have found a way to like find some synchronicity, because there's a lot of there really is a lot of cross-pollination going on just from people and places and things and everything like that.
Very incestuous.
Yeah. With the military nonprofit space, completely people just bounce around from organizations for all the right reasons. But kudos to our friends at Black Rifle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you built out a team. What are some of the big things that you guys do at Hunter 7 that you could say is like a big thing that you do to give people better context?
We have about 150,000 followers across all the platforms on social media, right? And so what I thought was just a problem that could be controlled, whether it be through the PACT Act or whatever it may be, we didn't realize how significant of an issue it was. So I was just bombarded with medical, can you help me with this? Can you get me a reference here? Can you help me get support out of Dana-Farber or MD Anderson? And we were I was bombarded. Like Keith and I were bombarded with medical needs support, like just very, very ill cancer patients. And I was like, I can't do everything. I can't. I need to take somebody who I trust, who I know is a leader, and have them come onto the organization so I can focus on saving lives, because I don't care about anything else. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I don't care about anything else. I care about saving lives. That's it. That's why I got into this. And so to get spun up with all the admin stuff and the donation stuff, like, I don't know how to fundraise money. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm a lifesaver. That's it,
Yeah.
And so we've never had somebody who comes in and does these massive events and raises money and does all that stuff, because that's not me. That's not me. I'm just a healthcare provider. And so he came on and did that, and I was like, here's everything that's not medical. Take it. And I just literally threw it at him. And God bless him. I would have been like, why are you like this? But he's doing great. And so Hunter 7 has become this non-government, non-healthcare, I shouldn't say non-healthcare, non-hospital medicine. So people will come to us with a situation, and I'm open-minded because I've seen incredible things happen to incredible people. And, one example is Casey West, and he was a Marine Corps veteran. And we met Casey, and he was like 29, 30 when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. And he kept going to the VA and covered in tattoos. And I think at the time he was in a motorcycle gang. And
Jesus.
A legit one, yeah. But they said to him, oh, it's TBI, it's headaches, it's PTSD, it's drinking, it's drugs. They gave him every excuse under the sun until I think he had a seizure. I'm not entirely sure, but something happened where they found this mass in his brain, and it was stage 4 brain cancer. And Casey had surgery to resect what he could of the brain cancer, but he never did chemotherapy and he never did radiation. And I was like, well, my textbook says that if you don't do this, you're going to die. If you don't do chemo radiation, you're going to die. And Casey's like, that's okay. I'm not doing it. And I was like, okay, can I get you a second opinion at Duke? We know the best neurosurgeon in the world. He's like, no, I want to try something else. And he changed. He was a crew chief on a helicopter in the Marine Corps, and God bless him, he took charge of his own health, which that's a whole nother conversation. But he was tested for heavy metals, and his uranium levels were at 99th percentile. And I guess there's a fuselage in the top of the rotors that can actually, if it becomes dislodged or isn't sitted, I'm not entirely sure, but that can expose you to depleted uranium nucleotides. And so this kid's uranium was through the roof. And so he said to me, he's like, I'm gonna go holistic. I want to do ivermectin. I want to do methylene blue. I want to do vitamins and HBOT and red light therapy and grounding and removing harmful chemicals from my food, my water, electricity. Like, you don't realize how many exposures you're actually exposed to chronically throughout your 24-hour day. And so I said to him, I was like, okay, let's do it. And there was a blood machine that he found, and it's called Advanced Lighting Devices, ALD machines. And he said to me, he's like, it's like dialysis for your blood minus the harmful chemicals. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, what are you talking about? And he showed me, and I spoke with the vendor who did it, or sold the machine, and an IV goes in. It goes through UVA and UVB red light therapy at different frequencies and cleans your blood. And then comes, it does it
and goes right
and
back
goes
in.
right back in your other arm.
So it basically cleans all of your blood, like as if you're getting an oil change for your body.
In small frequencies. So he'd do like a liter at a time. And I was like, you want us to pay for this? I was like, can I legally pay for this? Like, is this? And the company was great. And so they had a nurse go out there and show him how to use it. And like, Casey is still alive to this day.
Really?
Oh, healthy as a goat. He's
Yeah,
healthier than all.
terminal
He still has terminal brain cancer, but it's stable.
Stage 4 terminal brain cancer. And it's
Glioblastoma.
stable.
He was expected to live months, and that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And so Casey, his perspective blew my mind. And, you know, again, dealing with so many cancer patients and seeing how chemotherapy, you know, first things first, a lot of individuals don't get the appropriate chemotherapy. There's over 200 types of cancer with thousands and thousands and thousands of different mutations. How do you know you're getting the right treatment for the right reasons at the right time? You know, and that brings me to another veteran that we lost, and it broke my heart, and is part of the reason why we do what we do. You know, we had a Marine Corps veteran who was a recon Marine with 3rd Marine Recon, and he was out in Japan for a little while. And he responded to the Fukushima nuclear reactor incident in 2011. And after that, he ended up leaving the Marine Corps, went into Army, became a 18 Bravo with 19th Special Forces Group, I believe, out of Ohio, and redeployed to Afghanistan. And so he became a cop in Appleton, Wisconsin. His name's Dominic Hall, and amazing man. And he was chasing a suspect one day at 30 years old, fell and hurt his stomach, and he went to the doctor because something didn't feel right, and they said, oh, your LFTs, your liver function tests are a little bit elevated, you know, you get some swelling, you know, come back in a week. If it's still elevated, then we'll do further testing. So he comes back the following week, and it's still elevated, and they said, well, this isn't right, you know, like, there is a little spot on your pancreas, you should go get this checked. They do a biopsy, and the biopsy report after the fact, it said that they got the sample. They know it's cancer. They knew it was cancer. It's early stage 1, but they didn't get a big enough sample to determine the root pathology of that. So they assumed because he's young, otherwise healthy, he looks great, it has to be genetic. They assumed it was Lynch syndrome, and it wasn't. He was exposed to radiation, cesium-137, all these different carcinogens, not only in Fukushima, but also he was in PB Alcatraz when they were first setting up the base in Afghanistan. And this man, God bless him, he danger close to a frag grenade, an enemy frag grenade. Like, he helped a bunch of people, and just the valorous citations that he had. And so when they treated him with the immunotherapy for this pancreatic cancer that they assumed was genetic, it wasn't. It was from all of his exposures. And so his cancer progressed to stage 4 within 7 months. And so he was just such an incredible guy, great father, great husband. And when I saw it, it hurt me. And I lost sleep over it. I lost a lot of sleep over it. I'd find myself awake at 1, 2 in the morning trying to find reasons to say how I could save this guy's life. And you know, I remember talking to him, and I said, Dominic, I am so upset. I'm so angry. I'm furious. They screwed this up. They didn't take a big enough sample. This is gonna cost. And he was like, stop. And he said, Chelsea, if the loss of my life can save another family this type of pain and loss, I'm okay with that. God has a plan for me. And again, like it just hit me like a train. And he passed away in September and a few years ago. And, you know, one of the things that we did was, how can we predict cancer? This is 2026. Cars drive themselves. How can we predict cancer? And so using natural language processing and different documentation and all these different factors and throwing them into a machine to tell us who, what, where, when, why, how, right? So knowing, you know, Dominic was at PB Alcatraz, knowing his citation shows that he was exposed to XYZ, you know, seeing that he was at Fukushima, knowing that XYZ have also been diagnosed with cancer from Fukushima and the likelihood of exposures, and putting that into a big neural map network and having a predictive analysis of cancer risk factors. So, you know, it's weird. Some people are like, Chelsea, you have no bedside manner. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm an ER nurse. Like, I'm from New England. I don't have any bed. But I'll go up to somebody and I'll know their history. Like, I won't say any names, but I went up to somebody today and I was like, hey, we really need to do your cancer screening. And they looked at me and they were like, what? What do you mean? Me? And I was like, yeah, you. They're like, we don't want to know. And that is the worst thing that somebody can say to me. And I don't have any children. I have a dog. Me and my husband have a dog. But Chachi said to me one day, I was like, how do you even answer that when somebody says, I don't want to know about cancer?
And so people have said this in various forms, so I can't take credit for it. But you know, you ask any father, you know, like, would you die for your kids? Like, yes. Would you die for your spouse? Yes, absolutely. It's like, sweet. That's quote unquote easy. You're not challenged with that every day. You're not faced with that. But the question is, would you live for them? Are you taking the steps every day to be there for your children, be there for your spouse, to do that? And that's kind of where we're approaching a lot of our mentality and modality for how we reach out and connect with these amazing veterans and service members who are, who just, they fear the unknown. They don't necessarily want to know, but your family wants to know.
And so I think that's one of the most telling points is that, of course, it's scary. But, you know, like, we meet some of the most amazing people. And of course it's scary. But you go into combat and you know there's a chance you could die. And you still go into combat because you have your brothers and sisters to your left and your right. You know, you trust them with your life. And so 107 has that unique mentality that if you are diagnosed with cancer, you just acquired the biggest family that you probably did not want, you know? And that's everybody, we remember everybody. I was at the Circle Bar the other night, and this nice man was there, and he said, oh, you deal with cancer, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. And he's like, my son had cancer. He was a Ranger. I was like, what was your son's name? And he told me his son's name. I was like, I know exactly who your son is. We can send him a picture right now. And that was 6 years ago. And so once you cross that path, it's like, you're not alone anymore. You know, and we have a lot of, like, we just started a cohort down in California with a good friend of mine, Nikki Selby, and her partner, fellow Navy nurse, Erin Eckhoff. They created this company called the Jab Lab. They deal a lot with aesthetics and all that, but they also take care of veterans. And so we have such a heavy, dense military population in Southern California. What Erin and Nikki have done for our people is they're able to go get that red light therapy and clean their blood. They're able to go get high-dose vitamin infusions and different alternative therapies and treatments. And so one thing that we saw was, I want to say you introduced me to him. His name's Ricardo. And we got him hooked up with 3 other veterans in that area, and they all go together and get high-dose vitamin infusions. They all go and share, you know, time together. And I mean, even if the vitamin infusions aren't doing what we know they do, you know, there's a lot of studies that show that vitamin infusions, high-dose vitamin C is very proactive and you know, protecting your cells. But just the camaraderie. Like, yeah, they're all sitting there, like, we all have cancer, it sucks, but at least we're together, you know? And so 107 has taken on so many different forms, but I think the biggest one is knowing that, like, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, whether you need a liver. We had a Marine Corps veteran that needed a liver, and we found him a liver. We found him a liver, and he's doing incredible. He's in remission. He's doing great, Another Marine, he needed a kidney. We found him a kidney, another soldier who needed a bone marrow biopsy. Me and Chachi flew down to North Carolina with Sherry, and we were the first ones to swab our cheeks to see if we were a match to donate marrow to this young soldier. We wouldn't ask anybody to do something we wouldn't do ourselves.
You bet.
So
well, and then another great part of Chelsea, she'll do this self-deprecating stuff, right? Oh, I'm a masshole, right? You'll never find a more compassionate person on the planet, and her ability to remember all the patients, all that is just amazing.
That was something I was going to mention because so I am terrible with names. I've got too much. My brain's too oversaturated with information, and I like unfortunately because I'm flying by the seat of my pants a lot of the days of my life. I can remember faces very well. I have a very hard time remembering names, and maybe I've got brain damage from before. Maybe my short-term memory's bad. I don't know. You can spout off names like nobody's business. Did you remember like exactly the first and last name? You remember where you met them? All this stuff, and I've always found that very commendable, and also I've always thought that was really impressive because you see so many people go through so many different traumatic experiences and get diagnosed with all these various different, earth-shattering illnesses, and you're able to remember each individual person, even though you're constantly
excruciating detail.
That's what
like everything that you would want from a nurse, from a medical professional, from any type of caregiver, and she has that in spades. Now, we're here at SHOT Show last year with another nonprofit that we're friendly with, and Chelsea reintroduced herself. And the lady was like, Chachi, I've met Chelsea a few times. I'm like, she's busy. And not only that, like 30 seconds later, somebody came up like, oh, you treated a friend of mine, Ted. She's like, oh, I remember Ted. Ted is from here. His wife's name's this. The kids are here. This is the cancer he did. This is how much money we raised. This is who we connected with. And then the lady, she's like, okay, never mind. Like absolutely had grace for Chelsea because her energy, her caring is 100% channeled right where it needs to be.
Well, that's what I was saying is you can't fake that.
No.
Well,
you can't fake that.
She's authentically Chelsea.
Oh, it's a blessing and a curse. But like you mentioned, in excruciating detail, and excruciating is a great word to put it because it is excruciating.
Yeah.
And when I was in the ER full time, of course you see terrible things, right? And I mean that's what I'm good at. But I always did ER work because we do 12, 16-hour shifts, and it's like I know my day is going to go that I'm going to have patients that go either upstairs, out the front door, or downstairs to the morgue. That's it, and you don't build relationships, and it's self-protection. You don't build relationships. You don't get to know their families, and so doing 107, I didn't think, because of course we thought it was going to be a research education, and then all of a sudden, I never expected that this would be as emotionally taxing as it is. And so, when people question, of course, there's many great nonprofits out there, and there's others that massive salaries, massive income, and you can't even get them to pick up a phone. And it's like, of course, I want people to scrutinize where our money goes. Like, our 990s are public, our audits are public. Like, I can show you where the money goes, But when people question, I'm like, I would never wish this job on anybody else, ever. And that's not just me laying on my shield. It's me. I'm in too deep now. I can't not do this. But it is excruciating. And I don't think people realize that. Like, I've knock on wood, I've been blessed to help a lot of people who are still alive, but you don't remember the ones you save, but you'll never forget the ones you lose. And that you carry with you deeply.
Yeah, because you're investing a lot of emotional energy into helping people, and you can't help everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that you don't try. Right. That doesn't mean that you don't try. It's like you're never going to reduce the level of self-harm to zero. Right. But that doesn't mean you don't keep trying. Right. And I think that stuff is important to remember because sometimes people can feel like, well, what's the point? You're never going to reduce it to zero. But that's not the point. The point isn't to reduce it to zero. Yeah. It's to keep going.
I mean, if and that's the thing. Like I tell these guys and gals, like I understand screening's scary, but if I can identify your cancer in early stages, if you do have cancer, if I identify your cancer in an early stage, I can work with so many other people that we can help extend your life, if not save your life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's scary. I get it. It's scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's.
I didn't want to do it.
I know.
I did it. I didn't want to. I did it anyway.
And but you know what I'm saying? Like it's. And then, like, I would never forgive myself. Like, we share a mutual friend. And I won't mention their name.
Yeah.
But we share a mutual friend that we spent a lot of time with in North Carolina. And this veteran, 20 years of service, I sent him a cancer test. I sent him a cancer test back after I left North Carolina. I said, I need you to do this. And he didn't do it. And he sat on it, and I yelled at him, and I was like, I texted him. I was like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I got a phone call a few weeks ago that he was having trouble swallowing and kept throwing up, and the VA thought it was GERD, which is common, you know. It continued. He lost 30 pounds and diagnosed with stage 4 terminal esophageal cancer. And I wasn't mad, you know, but this guy's going to die. And he's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he does not need to die. And so that's like, I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just asking you to just give me a little bit of your time and invest in your own health. Not just for you, but for your loved ones. You know, like get another birthday. Have another birthday with your spouse. Have another, like, I hate to get emotional, but when you see as much death as I see, it's rough.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I mean, like, for the people watching this, I hope they understand the significance. Like, there is help, you know, and if we don't have a way right now, we'll find one. We'll make one. I will make one.
Yeah.
You know, I will make sure our team moves earth to get people the care they need. You know, maybe it's just me trying to save myself. I don't know. You know, we have those conversations all the time. Like, the moral injury of a healthcare provider is significant.
Yeah.
But
moral injury and compassion fatigue are just they're ass kickers.
Yeah.
And sadly, you know, part of this is just part of the military mindset that we're brought up in. And, you know, from the moment you hit basic training, you're like, hey, this isn't about you. It's about the team. Think about the team. This isn't you. This isn't you. Take care of the other people. If you're in any type of leadership position, it's not about you. Take care of your folks.
Yeah.
And so sadly, we see that replicated again for likely all the right reasons. But at the end of the day, it's hard to tell someone to be selfish, because that's not who we're taught to be from the moment we put on the uniform. But please be selfish in some way. Please, selfish, like, make it happen. Just because, like, invest in yourself. Like, please.
Yeah, it's on one hand, you know, you want to help everybody, you know, but it does eat away at you a little bit, you know, the people that you can't help, you know, or the people that don't want to help themselves, that you wanted to help, you know, and you only really have control over one person in your life, and that's yourself. But again, I still think that doesn't mean we don't try. I think that you know, part of getting older is just realizing that you don't have control over other people in any way. You can have an impact on them. You can have an influence on them in some way. But even if it's only slightly.
It's the partnerships we have, though. Like, you know, I think a lot of people assume that we have this massive paid team and this massive bank account. And it's like, we operate on I think it was $800,000 last year, you know? And so, like, we're very small.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not a fundraiser, so we rely on grassroots. And, you know, like, I'm seeing you're wearing the Sangan watch. Jake from Sangan has been a godsend. Like, and he's the most humble guy. I love that.
My
man.
goal, I'm going to hopefully try to sit down with him
He's
and
a
hear
great
his
guy.
story as well, because I'd love to hear his story. I've tried to support what he's been doing for a while as well. You know, what's funny is I never told anybody this. Actually, this is the first time I think I've told anybody. Good friend of mine fought in the Battle of Sangan. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want him to get dimed out or anything. When he was in Sangan, he stepped on an ID. All right, he was on patrol, dismounted patrol. He stepped on an ID. He was a machine gunner. If he ever hears this, he's going to know I'm talking about him. But stepped on an ID. the initiator charge went off. The main charge did not go off. So it just popped. And like it popped and like kind of like some dust flew up and stuff, but it didn't detonate. He stopped. He had a Garmin on. He got a 10-digit grid of where he was standing, and he got that tattooed on that foot. The 10-digit grid of where he stepped on that IED that didn't take his life.
Off.
In Sangan. So obviously Sangan has a very special, important place in his heart. And so once I found out about this company, I wanted one first off so I could support, and then I bought one for him.
Nice.
And gave him one. I've never told anybody who it is. I've never told that story before. But I'd found out that he was getting ready to be a father, and I felt like that would be something that'd be meaningful to him, and I think it was, because I was able to give it to him in person when I was able to meet up with him on Camp Lejeune a couple years ago. That was after, because I ordered both of these at the same time.
Nice.
I was actually in Iraq at the time, in Erbil, ordering it online, trying to get it set up. I was coordinating with you too.
I remember.
I was like hitting you up. I was like, hey man, you know the guy that like runs Sangan?
Yep.
Can you help like get me set up? I'll buy it. I don't need anything for free.
Yeah.
Like just like let me hook it up. And I had a little bit extra deployment money, so I was like, let's get a couple watches, and we got one to him. So that was he does an unbelievable job. Obviously, there's a lot of Marines and sailors and a lot of folks that fought in Sangan.
Yeah.
And in Helmand Province and all these other places down there. And what he's done building this company and kind of like building around the stories that people have and experiences, because like obviously a Sangan Instruments watch is going to have more meaning. I don't need a Rolex. I don't want a Rolex. I want a Sangan Instruments watch, because this means more. There's more history to this. There's more purpose to having this. This means a lot more to me than having some $50,000 piece of junk that I don't care about.
You bet.
You know what I mean? And so you're 100% spot on about him.
I mean, I don't think, and like again, a small company, but over the past few years, like in total, he's donated over $100,000 to the foundation.
Yeah.
And you will never hear him.
He'll never admit it.
Yeah.
He'll never admit it.
No. Of course not.
$100,000 to us is huge.
Huge.
Like
That's huge.
Absolutely
For any normal person.
huge. You know, like I people see it, and I don't want to dive in about the nonprofits that are getting millions upon millions. Like I absolutely get that. I get why you want to do that. But the best part about 107 is like that money puts meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Like we test people, and even if you're cancer free, that's great. These are all data points that she can put towards this predictive analysis model that can say, hey, if you had this job in this service station here, deployed here, experience this, then maybe we can get to the spot and say, hey, you're likely to get this type of cancer. So just screening you has such great benefit. If you come back super healthy, but like that $100,000, I mean, it is monumental.
One example. So last year we screened about 80 Green Berets or Green Beret support at 20th Special Forces Group down in Alabama, and then a few months ago we went up to Alaska to screen the pararescue men, PJs.
Yeah, I remember calling Kyle when you were up there and you guys didn't have any goddamn cell phone service.
It was. I was like, Air Force is the highest rates of cancers. You guys are PJs, chronic risk, for aviation-related fumes and elevated stress. One person returned, 1 out of 80 returned with cancer, which is excellent. Just one. I say just one.
Odds-wise.
Odds-wise.
Yeah.
What we're saying.
And I said, no, this can't. No way. No way.
No way.
I was like,
Fuck's
no. What?
sake.
I think I called Chachi and I was like, no way.
Check. Like we have to do this. I'm going to put this together, and instantly started crunching all the data.
And I was like, why are these people so healthy? Why are these PJs so healthy compared to these Green Berets who are not?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is the difference? And a lot of it was lifestyle related. So like these data points do matter. Like, of course, we were able to identify that one significant cancer, he's getting life-saving treatment. But when we look at that difference between the two, the sockeye salmon, it's a heavy fish-related omega-3s, omega-6s consumption up in Alaska. That's what they do up there. There's fish everywhere. There's like pictures of fish everywhere. It's weird. Pictures of these ugly red fish. But every single one of those PJs and related pilots, they were all extremely healthy. And I was like, what is it? And the command climate, they have an excellent command climate. Their commands up there is rock solid. I was like, I went wrong in life. I was like, I have a new level of respect for the Air Force.
If I had a nickel for
Yeah.
for any non-airman.
Like these top tier performing, special operators, lifesavers, they're like trauma nurses, but yeah, literally.
They're like combat trauma nurses.
And so
yeah.
we're doing the screening, and a few of them are going to the gym in-house, and a few are eating healthy in the kitchen that they have there, and a few are, and I'm like, wow, you guys get to do this during a work day? I was like, this is lovely. And they're like, yeah.
This is lovely.
They're like, our command cares about our health and wellness. And so the command actually approved us coming in there and doing screening, and the commander himself got screened, and they, seriously.
That's cool.
And these colonels were just like, we invest in our people. And I was like, well, hot damn. You're doing a great job. And
Yeah.
I was just so mind blown. They are extremely healthy. Now, we compare it to the Green Berets, and they're both National Guard units. Totally different spectrum. Diet, a lot worse, I don't want to dime anybody out, but huge differences in correlations. And so, back to the data points piece, we take a lot of that data from all the different numbers and we put them in different programs and different ways to identify risk factors. And so you talked about Syria. What we found is Syria, we actually had one veteran, MARSOC veteran, who went over to Syria in TANF, and he had a Bronze Star. He had ended up getting a rare autoimmune disease and a lymphoma, malt lymphoma. And the malt lymphoma was from H. pylori, which we'll get into. But the autoimmune disease and the exacerbation on his cancer, I was like, well, this is weird. What caused this? And so I said, send me over your medical stuff and your military stuff. And so I'm going through his stuff, and his Bronze Star with Valor as an E6 said that he helped save 30 Syrians or, Iraqis during a sarin mustard gas attack. And so I was like, hey, were you...
What?
I was like, were you exposed to sarin? He's like, oh, yeah, here's a picture of the dosimeter or whatever he had to gauge the exposure. And so we found out that autoimmune disease, and he's actually in medical school now. He's at Dartmouth. Amazing man, very brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant man, and very strong. He's very strong. He lifts rocks for fun. I'm like, that's weird.
Jesus.
Awesome guy. I was like, you were exposed to sarin? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's what caused the cancer. But a lot of people don't know that. And so not only did we see that in the MARSOC guys that were there in 15, 16, 17, 18, but we also saw it in the 5th group guys. And we saw it in the SEAL teams from the West Coast, all these different autoimmune diseases and blood cancers and just rarities. And
these are all guys that were going to CENTCOM.
going to Syria specifically.
Syria specifically.
Green Village, TANF,
Green
Lafarge,
Village is
the
closed.
cement.
Green Village is closed down. Conoco.
Yep.
Closed down. Patrol base Shadadi.
Yep. All
Also
toxic
closed
places.
down. All toxic places. I never went to Green Village or Conoco. I tried to, but they were like, no, you're not going down there.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah, you're not going there. Did go to Patrol base Shadadi in Hasaka. I don't know if you ever. There's some other places up that are further up northeast.
The cement factory is really suspect.
The cement
Lafarge,
factory, yeah.
LCF.
Well, you've got the Al Jazeera oil fields out there, and they're burning a lot of trash and all kinds of stuff up there too. But yeah, that's interesting that there was a lot of correlations between guys that had been into Syria, especially during that time when it was very kinetic back then.
And another interesting thing is Afghanistan, the elevation, and we have a high rate of cancer patients, metastatic melanoma cancer patients who deployed to Bagram in Kabul, and there's this misnomer that if you were deployed to the mountains of Afghanistan, your risk of sun-related cancer or UV-related cancer isn't as high because it's cold, right? The mind just thinks because it's cold, there's no sun, no risk. But Kabul is one of the top 5 most filthiest air quality locations in the world.
Really?
Because they burn their trash to stay warm, which understandable.
Air quality is really bad in Syria too, and in northern Iraq actually. Funny enough. Poor quality. Every time I'd look on my phone, air quality poor every single day, bro.
Well, so these people burn their trash and it destroys the ozone layer. And because you're higher up in elevation, the ozone layer is destroyed. You have a higher susceptibility of being exposed to those UV rays. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so we see that same thing with pilots and aviators and people in aircrafts. But what's interesting about Iraq is, a lot of people assume that burn pits are the number one cause of cancer. They're not. They're not, because if that was true, then why do we have all these top-tier operators who aren't sitting on bases just hanging out burning trash? They're out kicking in doors and, running through missions. And they have a high rate of cancer. So we found a study, it was done a few years ago, and it shows that if you're in a convoy, your exposure to small airborne particulates like silica dust and these laden metals that are inside of these sand particles, because the sand is so wind driven that it you just pick up, it's like a big mess.
Yeah.
But if you're in a second, third, fourth vehicle in a convoy, you're more likely to be exposed to a more significant amount of particulate matter versus if you're on a base with a burn pit. Think about that. It's true. You know. I know you know.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you go on any type of convoy out in 29 Palms, California,
Exactly.
you leave and you're completely caked in dust.
Yep.
Moon dust.
But the thing about that is like when you see the dust in Iraq, it's smaller than the dust we have here, the sand we have here. And so, usually if we're at the beach here in 29 Palms and we're driving around, usually for the most part, a lot of the particulates will get trapped right here at your trachea. They won't go down because they're too big. But the particulate matter 2.5 microns, it's a lot smaller. And so they have the ability to bypass that safety net in the trachea and go down into your esophagus or into your trachea and go down into your bronchioles, and that's what causes a lot of the scarring. We see a lot of scarring in people, bronchitis, asthma, sleep apnea, all those things.
Yeah. Well, so what would you say like the largest percentage of your budget goes towards, just so people have an idea for like, hey, this is where our money goes when we're donating to you guys?
So last year we said we wanted to screen 1,000 veterans for cancer. We screened 1,108. Of those, about 1 in 4 came back with an abnormal finding. Super concerning, super red flag. And I know people listening will say, well, Americans in general are likely to get cancer. 1 in 2 for males, 1 in 3 for females are likely to get cancer throughout their lifetime. Throughout their lifetime is the key word. Most Americans are likely to get cancer between 68 and 72, right? Our veterans are being exposed at an increased rate. We're seeing cancer rates diagnosed on average between 35 and 45, so at least 20 years younger. And so to put that into perspective, when I say 1 in 5, 1 in 4 abnormal findings, that's a significant number. This is our top fighting force. These are considered the healthiest people in our country. And so our budget goes to, we did that. We did cancer care. We cared for a lot of individuals with cancer, whether it be holistic treatments of new technologies, pulsed electric therapies and immunotherapies direct into cancer cells that we don't offer here that are offered in Mexico.
How much does each one of those cancer tests cost? Is it $700?
So for the prices that we get for sponsors, we try and do $750 per cancer screening.
Okay.
That is not the cost, but that includes the cancer screening itself. That includes the evaluation of the cancer screening that Chelsea goes through. That turns into the health assessment and way forward for how that goes, and that also helps build the shelf for follow-on force, because if that's a questionable finding, then one of our primary next step is do that full body MRI where they found my fatty liver. So we kind of build that into the price mechanism as far as that goes. So approximately for us, $750 per one person screen.
Okay.
Because there's no one size fits all, just like with cancer treatment,
Yeah.
like whereas I don't have GI issues, he might have GI issues, and so the cancer screening itself is broad spectrum. 1 tube of blood checks different proteins and antigens, and it gives you an assessment about 30 different types of cancers, but it varies on stage, location, all that. Like obviously thyroid cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, unless you do a PSA, are a lot more difficult to find using cell-free and circulating tumor DNA and protein-based antigens, just because they're encapsulated glands, right? So it takes longer for it to spread and get into the bloodstream. So we look at that, and so when we have people fill out our forms, we ask about, do you smoke, do you drink, do you have a family history, what are your symptoms? And we make it very clear that DoD does not have access to this stuff. You can be as honest as you want, and I highly recommend it, because people will say, oh, I have A X through Z, I have acid reflux. Perfect example, I have acid reflux. And, we go through and we can see some inflammation in this cancer marker, but it's nothing concerning for cancer at the moment. And so then we get a little bit deeper into it. We do that initial cancer test. Everything looks good on that side, but you're having these symptoms. Why are you having these symptoms? This is where a lot of mainstream healthcare and a lot of civilian healthcare providers screw up, and it bothers me, right? We look at that and we say, okay, you have these symptoms. you're taking this medication, this medication, this medication for these symptoms. Is it working? No. Okay, so why are you taking these medications? It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Eventually you're going to bleed out, right?
Yeah.
And so we take a step back. Acid reflux is the number one symptom in post 9/11 veterans. And so one thing that a lot of civilian providers in America don't realize, because we have less than a 10%, correlation rate with exposures in this state or this country for H. pylori. H. pylori is a bacteria that's caused from, unsanitary conditions, easily transmittable. But we're a first world country in America. We don't have that issue. We don't. Less than 10% of our population has H. pylori. Whereas if you go to some place like Iraq, Afghanistan, CENTCOM, AFRICOM, they have a diagnostic rate of H. pylori at like 90%. So a good majority of the population has this bacteria. And so when our service members are exposed, because it's easily transmittable, whether it be through hand contact or even, in certain cases, with severe cases, you can even breathe, or somebody sneezes, you can be exposed to H. pylori. And so when we see that, it's concerning. So when we see that, we're like, okay, you have acid reflux. Why? And they say, well, I don't know. My doctor told me I need to take this pill, though. I'm like, but no, that's not what I'm asking. Why? What's the root cause of your symptom? Symptoms just don't happen. What is the root cause? And so we don't think about just the end state. Like, oh, you're good. See you later. We try to find the reasons why. And so an H. pylori test is a simple test. You either breathe into a bag or poop into a bag. And, you can see, I know, it's not the best.
Poop into a bag?
Yeah.
Who do you send that to?
Oh, not me. Don't send it to me.
Okay. Yeah,
you send it to the lab.
Mail it to your P.O. box.
Yeah, mail it right to the lab.
I had to do it twice. I kind of screwed up the first time.
did.
And
Yeah.
So they actually screen that stuff, and it helps them determine certain things.
Yeah, so it screens all these different, like, if you have good bacteria, bad bacteria. Like, think about how many proactive, prophylactic medications you take before you go overseas.
A lot.
It's destroying your gut health.
Yeah.
And your gut-brain axis is a real thing, right? Your gut actually controls more of your body than I think people realize.
Yeah.
So you got to heal your gut. And like we did it on my husband Kyle, and sure enough, he has severe H. pylori, and he's resistant to numerous medications. And so he actually has to go through a whole treatment process. But the thing about H. pylori is if you don't find it in time, it can cause gastric ulcers. If you have gastric ulcers and you ignore them, whether it be putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, like taking pantoprazole so you don't feel the acid reflux, it can cause gastric cancer. And a kid named Nick Van Hoosier, he passed away from gastric cancer related to H. pylori. He was only in his 30s. And so that's our whole perspective is we don't want to just test you in one and done. We want to make sure that we educate you on how to live a healthy lifestyle, how to be proactive in your health, how to manage your stress. Chachi, when I did his MRI and I saw his body, I was like, you live like this? I was like, I thought my back was bad, but you got problems. And I said to him, I was like, hey, listen, do me a favor. You need to become more flexible. You need to do this. And so I said to him, go to hot yoga. Your wife's going to love it. I know she's going to love it because I know your wife. She's going to love it. And it's going to be great for your marriage, and it's going to be great for your health, and it's going to be great for your detoxification. Hot yoga. Simple. All you need is an hour, maybe a few times a week, And he needs to go back. But simple
he needs to go back.
simple things like that just make a whirlwind of difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish that there was so for me, one of the things I use on a regular basis is sauna. I haven't been using it for a while. It's been a few months since I've used it, but I'm getting ready to have mine hooked up where I'm going to be able to start using it. I've got one at the house and be able to turn it up to 185, 190 degrees, sitting there for 20 minutes a day, every single day, every day. That'll become part of my normal routine again. It helps me sleep better. I feel great. It pushes out a bunch of the impurities out of my sweat glands. It good for cardiac health, brain health, skin health. Apparently good for testosterone health too. There's all kinds of benefits to it, and that's just one small thing. Like your diet's obviously really hugely important. Like you said, your colon, your intestinal health, your gut health is going to have a huge impact on mental health, on your brain health, on everything. And I think that the military is doing a better job now than they've ever done before. Probably they've made massive strides to try to figure out like, hey, we need to figure out how to make it so that our service members are living better and taking better care of their bodies and stuff like that. But
like 10, 15 years ago, they're like preservation of the force and family, the POTF stuff, or just calling service members, the human weapon system, and viewing it as that, where it's got to go in for maintenance and depot level maintenance and just a refit and all that. Just mentally, that's just such a great picture for how we need to value ourselves.
You get a PMCS your body. You know
bet.
what I'm saying?
Do you sound like my
100%.
husband? He'd say something like that, but he'd say it to me and not take his own advice. But what's a member of our board is the former SEAC, John Troxel, and I'm a big fan of Sergeant Major Troxel, Command Sergeant Major. I just call him John. But he said to me, and this was an interesting thing, like the E4 Mafia is a real problem, and when you have a defect that's Popeye's chicken and a crepe place, or wherever we were recently, where they were making crepes and Popeye's chicken, I was like, this is not good. This is not healthy. And if you get SEAC Troxel on a rampage about that, he will go off, because that is not how we fuel our fighting force.
Yeah.
Well,
part of the problem is like they got to work on redoing the chow hall then. Completely. Because if the chow hall is not good, then the Marine sailors, airmen, soldiers, they're not going to eat there, man. If it's bland, it doesn't have any salt or any seasoning, and it's like gross, like why are they going to eat there?
When I was the command chief at Aliyah Salim, is like the garrison CSM, for lack of a better term.
That chow hall is good.
That chow hall is good.
I'm gonna be straight up. That was a good chow hall.
But there was a regulation, an Air Force regulation. We wanted, like on the health side, we just wanted something where it was like chicken breast and then rice, and something about that we couldn't do it. It was against regulation, like for the health conscious people. Just there was something, and I'm probably misquoting it now, but I remember talking to the people in the squadron commander who ran it. I'm like, we need to fix this immediately. Like, well, there's AFI, Air Force Instruction, doesn't allow for this. I went to my boss. I'm like, this is BS. He's like, yeah, we're stopping that now. Commander's like, you sure? Because that's in violation. He's like, I don't care if I violate that AFI. And at the time, our Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Dave Goldfein, was like, hey, you're a commander. Like, if you want to assess risk and accept risk, do what you can for your people. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up doing that, like inside that chow hall. And then John Troxel, who lives right outside Joint Base Lewis McChord, so he goes to the chow hall there. But there's one specific, like, health conscious, like, restaurant there that has, it's almost like a Chipotle, but health driven, and you can get quinoa and you get your steak and you can get your chicken. That's the only place he goes to, and he's putting his money where his mouth is to make sure that you need to fuel properly for the stuff that you want to be a war fighter and continued stuff. And the guy who replaced him, Ray Clone Lopez, SEAC number 4, was just in like Men's Fitness.
Yeah.
One of the magazines talking about how to be healthy and how to, fuel the fight and how to move that forward. So, kudos to those senior, not only leaders, but senior enlisted leaders setting the example for what they want for our young warfighters and what they need to do to be, fit and healthy in a 5th generation fight.
And they're great. Both of them have been screened for cancer, both lead from the front. I will say that. They're great guys.
Yeah. The Al Salim chow hall is good, man. Like, that was one of the, I'll be honest, that was one of the things I always found very interesting about the DFACs, they call them over there, right? But the dining facilities or whatever, like, I could get salad. There was chicken and rice. You could get it almost every single day. If you wanted chicken and rice, you get chicken and rice. There was whole food, good cooked food there, and you could get a fresh salad. There was fresh fruit every day. And I was like, how the hell are they getting all this stuff out here to the middle of nowhere? I was eating good food in Erbil, Iraq.
Yes.
I was eating chicken. I was eating rice. I was eating omelets. I was eating like egg whites if I wanted an egg white omelet. We were eating pretty damn good. Like, honestly, like joint installations like that, or military or army installations, they've got good food, man.
They really do. And a product of that, some of the most unsung heroes in the military are the amazing men and women of Air Mobility Command inside the Air Force.
Yeah.
Like, do all that transportation on a global scale, and the en route system that they have to support and maintain the war fighters everywhere. It is amazing, like, to facilitate nearly everything that you're talking about there. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
They're crushing it, dude.
You bet.
Like, you win wars with logistics.
Yes.
Straight up. Like, straight up, man.
Yeah.
And that right there proves that they've got it down. I think that's one of the things. I was talking to a good friend of mine, is that, we might seem like we're all jacked up all the time, or like we're like all over the damn place. But one thing that the United States does do very well is we do logistics very well. Yes. Better than everybody. And everybody might be like, oh, well, look what happened to Afghanistan, look what happened to this place, that place. Okay, well, that's politics, that's money, that's other stuff. when we're there and we're like, we're doing this thing and we're committed. When we're committed to something, I can promise you we're winning. We're gonna win that.
Like when
we're committed.
You bet.
When you get a sign out of supply, that is one of the most amazing systems for them. Not for me. Probably not for you.
Yeah.
For 25 years.
Well, like the American way, and I learned this from those air mobility folks, is the American way is throughput and velocity.
Yeah.
How much can we do and how quickly can we do it? Or like even for us, how many veterans can we treat and serve, and how quickly can we serve them? If you go to McDonald's, how much food can I get and how quickly can I do it? If I'm going to go out partying tonight in Vegas with my teammate Chelsea, like how much can we drink and how quickly can we drink it? Like it's just the American way. So if you can wrap your cranium around that, a lot of things become easier because that's just how we're trained as Americans to think on how we go about our daily lives.
Yeah.
But we've said it's interesting because it is true. How quickly, like for SHOT Show, how many veterans can we screen? How quickly? How efficiently? Like Chachi loves being efficient, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go look at the ceiling over here. I get sidetracked. But in the same sense, we're like, wait, how can we make this more individualized? How can we make this more? And so I don't watch TV. I read books. Like I have a really boring life.
I listen to podcasts. That's what I do instead of watching TV or at work.
I like reading textbooks, medical textbooks. You learn so much. Very boring life. It really is.
But I mean, somebody that's doing what you're doing, I think that's good.
I love to read. But
what? No way.
No, I love it.
What? No way.
Love it. But so a friend of mine reached out and introduced me to this guy, Matt Johnson, I guess, Army veteran, runs a ton of miles. For those who love running, God bless you.
Yeah.
I run like a duck. I was a C group runner, and I just shuffle like a duck. It's like airborne shuffle, and I hate it. I hate running. He's like, I want to run and raise money for 107, and I have a friend named Kyle who wants to fundraise and raise money for 107, and I'm again like I'm over my head.
Yeah.
And they're like, have you ever heard of the Nelk Boys? And I was like, no. And they're like, have you ever heard of this? And I was like, no. And they're like, have you ever heard of Happy Dad Seltzer? And I was like, of course. I drink too much. Of course I have. And they were like, he owns that. And I was like, oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And he called me one day. He's like, do you have a moment to talk? And this hit me different. He said to me, he put a Facebook, Instagram post up that said his grandfather was sick and he hated the big cancer charities and thought, and he wanted people to share their input on what was a good cancer charity.
I tagged you guys in that
I
post.
know, and we were so humbled. Like I was humbled. And so this guy.
You know who sent that to me?
Who?
Not in Regs.
I love non-regs.
Not in Regs sent me that post and told me, and I was like,
Yep.
that's awesome. He's also the first. He also told me that Kyle donated $100,000 to you.
$100,000. It gets better. It gets better. So personally, Kyle donated $100,000.
Yeah.
And he's pushing the fundraiser. And ironically, he's running out in Vegas tomorrow afternoon.
He's here right now.
He's here right now at the Red Rock.
Yeah.
And
I would have loved to have him here, but I know he's probably prepping for that, probably drinking a lot of water and stuff.
well, but I mean, like the level of humility. And he's a young guy. He's 30 maybe.
Yeah, he's pretty young. He's very, very successful. Yeah. And he's very young.
And I mean, like, that's great. We all measure success differently, but he said to me, and like this hit me hard. I lost my grandfather, who raised me a few months ago, and it hit
October,
me
yeah.
hit me like it hit hard.
Yeah.
And my grandmother is slowly losing her memory, and these are people that raised me, so it affects me significantly. And Kyle said to me, he's like, my grandfather is diagnosed with cancer, and he's at the end stage of his life. And unfortunately, Kyle's grandfather passed away a few days ago. And
A few days ago. I didn't know that.
And I saw it, and I texted him, and I was like, I'm really sorry. And we were talking, and he said to me, and Kyle's from Canada, and he said to me, I was like, listen, most importantly, like, I appreciate you wanting to raise money, but of course the healthcare provider comes out in me. And this is the compassion, and I'm like, what can I do for you? What can I do for your family? What can I do for your grandfather, please, And he said to me, oh, there's not much that can be done. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, what type of cancer? And he said, prostate. And I felt so terrible. And I said to Kyle, I was like, prostate? I was like, nobody should die from metastatic prostate cancer. How was the ball dropped? That is one test. All you need is one blood test to identify prostate cancer. One blood test, a PSA marker. And now this young man who's extremely successful is out his grandfather. And I mean, personally, just losing my grandfather, I know how difficult that was. And so, I said to Kyle, and I shocked him when I said, I'm so sorry. Your grandfather should have never been diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer. And it was just a aha moment, and God bless him. I mean, it's like I said, it's one of those, the land of misfit toys. Like, I'm going to harass Kyle, not just to be a part of course, we appreciate the donation, but you see the problem. He sees the problem. He sees the solution. And, he said to me, well, what's different from you guys? And I said, all these alternative therapies. And, he reached out to Cole Brecka, and I didn't know who that was. And Chachi's like,
I did. I was over the moon.
Is that Gary Brecka?
Son.
Gary Brecka's son.
That's right, yeah.
And so I was like, I get that. I think he has a hydrogen tank. Chachi's like, I
have everything that Gary Brecka had suggested, right? So whether it's the salt, whether it's the hydrogenated bottle, and now the tabs, you can get into the cold plunging and all that. Yeah, just hanging on every piece of advice.
And so it's a weird full circle, because I said to Chachi, I was like, I want to build a compound. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I'm not trying to build Waco. I'm trying to build, compound is code word for healing facility, healing retreat. I don't care. I'm willing to put up my own personal money. Me and Kyle are willing to drop our life and literally put up our own money and build a location where veterans can heal. We spend 5 times as much as we should sending veterans to HBOT at this clinical facility or this and that. What if we brought it all in-house and brought them to us? What if we gave them a place where they didn't need to worry about lodging, and they didn't need to worry about cost, and they didn't need to worry about their family, because their family can come too? What if we gave them that opportunity? And I was talking to Matt Williams, Medal of Honor recipient Matt Williams, the other day, and he said, Chachi told me you wanted to build a compound. And of course, he's from Texas. I love Matt. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. And I was like, of course I do. You know me. I want to build a compound. Not a cult. A compound.
Yeah, like a medical compound.
Not in Waco.
Not in Waco. Right, so maybe outside.
A treatment facility.
But like a holistic way.
Cancer campus.
To bring people together and heal. And like seeing what happened with Casey West, seeing, all the incredible things that we can do and all the successful treatment stories we've experienced. What if we bring that together? And he said, Matt Williams said to me, how much would that cost you? And I was like, probably $500,000. Like, not even that much, like, really, because I'm willing to, and like I said, I would never ask somebody to do anything I wouldn't do myself. So I will literally put up my house for sale and move my husband and my dog, my poor dog. My dog's also a cancer survivor.
Jeez.
I know, tough life I live. He's a pit bull, so he had mast cell cancer. But I'm willing to do that because I believe so much in this mission, and I see what we can do if we heal. And it's like, for me, I'm a simple person. I wear Chuck Taylors that are probably 5 years old. I think, I'm a simple living person. We share a vehicle. Kyle and I share a vehicle. We're not lavish lifestyle people. Like, my ring is plastic. And so
I don't even wear a ring. I have a tattoo.
Yeah.
Right there.
For me, we know we can make a life-saving difference. And so having people like Matt Williams, having people like Kyle, having people like Jake from Sing, and having people like you. I mean, if people go on Instagram right now and they look at Hunter 7, how many co-tagged or co-sponsored posts are with you?
Yep.
Like, those are the kind of people that we want to bring together to make a life-saving difference. Because not everybody needs to be medical. Not everybody needs to be a marathon runner. Not everybody needs to be the owner of a watch company. We just want to bring good people together to make a life-saving difference. And so,
and just like good tangible stuff. There's in a different area, the University of Health and Performance outside of Bentonville, Arkansas, founded by Matt Hesse. They're building something similar where you can go there and get a personal training certification. Mm-hmm. And they've got like lock, stock, and barrel. You're there for a month. You can use your GI Bill, and that's great. But when you go to their dining facility or chow hall there, the food that's being made is by their culinary students getting a culinary certification to build that out. So he's building this self-sustaining infrastructure where people will grow crops. And then the agriculture students will get a certification, and that will help the chefs getting their culinary stuff to feed it's just amazing type of environment that's kind of like a mental blueprint. But if we could do the same thing, if we can get people to go out there and because we were kind of, Chelsea was crunching the numbers, all the stuff that we do to outsource to get individual patients treatment somewhere else, if we bought it once and have people come to us, it gets cheaper, we have it longer, we can help more and more people. And so, so this cancer campus is
And just like when people said to me, hey, this is a crazy idea. I hear it all the time. This is a crazy idea. This is a crazy idea. Well, I was told it was a crazy idea when I joined the military. I was told it was a crazy idea when I wanted to do research as an undergrad. I'm told everything I do is a crazy idea, but seemingly I'm doing something right, you know?
Elon Musk was probably told it was a crazy idea to build
right.
SpaceX.
Or cars that drive themselves.
Or cars that drive themselves.
But
you know?
I mean, what do I got to lose?
Yeah.
Nothing.
And
But
then,
what do I have to gain? Everything.
Everything. Well, honestly, it's crazy how I didn't realize that the organization was only like 6 years old. 8 years old. First off, and then to see how fast you guys have grown and how much you've been able to expand and how much help you've been able to offer people and how much increased levels of help you've been able to offer people, and just over this short period of time. I mean, 8 years is a short period of time. I was at the end of my first enlistment by the time you guys were founding, so it's like, I didn't realize that it hadn't been around that long, but you guys have done a lot and made massive waves and massive impact on a lot of people, and I think it's going to continue to, especially because you've got the right people driving the ship. You know what I mean? People that are driven, intrinsically motivated, and feel called to do it, but maybe from some higher being of whatever you're understanding, you know what I mean? I do believe that there are a lot of folks that get put into your life for a reason, whether it was for a reason or not, and obviously you guys will always have my support, I want to continue to help support what you guys do because I don't have the bandwidth to have my own nonprofit. I just don't. I don't have the bandwidth for it. And I don't really want one, honestly. I'd rather just know some good ones that do good stuff that I trust, who I can trust to help me facilitate getting help for people, because that's the big thing that comes across my peripherals and stuff like that. Is like, hey, this is more like your lane. You think you can link this person up with somebody or something like that, and typically 9 times out of 10 I reach out to you guys first and ask you if you know anybody or if this is something that you guys can do or something you can handle or something that's within your wheelhouse or things like that. But I look forward to seeing where this goes from here. I mean, if you've been able to do this much in 8 years, imagine what you'll do in another 8. Imagine where you'll be in another 8. And even if you expand, I think that you're going to want to be involved enough that it's not going to get to a point where you see things happening like what you see happening with some larger nonprofits that run into issues and problems with people taking too much money or paying people too much or doing weird stuff. It all goes back to helping people, and you have another job. That's what pays your actual bills, And I think that, give it another 6 to 8 years from now. Imagine where you'll be, I want to, like I said, I want to continue to be involved in whatever minute way I'm able to be involved, even if it's just helping get the word out about stuff on social media. I think that's, if I don't have the bandwidth for anything else, at least I can do that initially, and then come and be at events and do stuff with you guys in person to help show support and let people know that this is a thing that's happening. So I'm glad we were able to come here and do this, number one, because I think this worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. The stars kind of aligned. You happen to have the time, and I happen to have nobody scheduled for this time, and I wanted to fill it with somebody. And honestly, I've been wanting to do one with you guys anyway, so this worked out perfectly. And I'm glad you were able to take time out of the busy schedule for SHOT Show 2026. For those of you that don't know, it's January 20th right now when this is being filmed. So when you see this, maybe a little bit down the road, but this was filmed on January 20th of 2026. Just to provide context, because things will happen between then. By the time that happens, some other things will be a little dated. But
sure.
So either way, I appreciate you guys helping tell your story a little bit. I think that's going to help provide a lot of context for folks out there that watch this eventually. And you have any last minute plugs you wanted to put in? You said you had some things you wanted to put out.
Yeah. So right off the bat, one of the cool things we have is this. This is called our Grand is Grand coin. And so we had this built last year and really wanted something tangible for people that wanted to put meat on the bone, that to know that their money is going toward a good cause and they could really affect change. So it's the Superman logo with kind of dollar signs through that.
Yeah.
To put that together, and then it says 1,000 patriots, $1,000 commitment, 1,000,000 reasons to make a difference. So what we're looking at is to get 1,000 individuals or 1,000 businesses that want to support veterans, right? To donate $1,000, we'll send you one of these coins, right, on our way to generate $1 million worth of revenue to get all these cancer screenings done. So if you're out there, if you care, if you're interested, you can email me, Chachi, CHACHI, at hunter7.org, and I will absolutely get you in this process. And so this has been like a long time coming, and so we're happy to have these. I have number 69 because I'm 12 years old.
Because I'm 12. I love that sense of humor, man. I think that's great.
And so that's awesome. But also on behalf of Chelsea and I, we want to make sure that you had your own because you've helped so much, you've donated so much, and it just wouldn't be right without you having one. So thank you for all your time and efforts to supporting veteran causes.
Dude, I appreciate you, man.
That's freaking awesome, man.
That is awesome.
Dude, look at that. It's freaking cool.
It's a very thick
dude.
coin. Emphasis. On
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I have to get another coin rack made because mine's just filled up. So
Yep.
I never expected that, but
Yeah.
That is freaking cool, man.
And again, like if people go to hunter7.org, they can see what's going on. Chelsea just kind of orchestrated a new revamped look to our website, so it's brand new. Please check it out, and if you're interested, by all means, we could use the money, but we can't use the money. There are veterans out there who are at increased risk because of their service, and this isn't like a huge point to make is this isn't the government's fault or the military's fault. It's the cost of doing business, right? So it isn't anyone's fault that this is happening, but it is our collective responsibility to help fix it.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the big things people will say, oh, well, the PACT Act is in law now, and that's going to fix all the problems. But the PACT Act is very downstream. It's very tertiary. The PACT Act covers a cancer patient while they're undergoing treatment. They're reassessed every 6 months to see if they're still sick, and it's a few $1,000s a month, and that doesn't work. And I mean, when somebody said to me, well, Chelsea, they're going to cover $4,000, $4,100 a month and, until somebody passes away if they're terminally ill. And I said, well, if you ever said to me, Chelsea, your husband is going to pass away from cancer, sorry, but here's $4,000 a month until he dies, I would be pissed. I would be devastated. And so you can't put a price on a life. And so our mission, it coincides with the PACT Act, but our mission is to save lives, not to sustain death. And while the PACT Act is great for those battling cancer, it's not a solution. It's a temporary fix to a more significant problem. And so we're trying to go back upstream. And I tell people, they're like, well, what do you mean when you say upstream? It's like, imagine we were sitting here having a picnic, right? And the stream's flowing through and we see somebody down the stream screaming for help. We're going to go run and help them. That's what we do. We're going to run and help them. We're going to bring them out. And then all of a sudden another person downstream screaming for help. We're going to keep pulling them out. But we can't do that forever, And eventually we're going to get tired, we're going to get burnt out. And so instead of just running downstream to grab those people and save their lives, why don't we go back upstream and figure out why they're falling in the first place? You fix the root cause of the problem, there won't be a problem downstream.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to take that mentality of tertiary care, which is terminal, late-stage chronic care, like the PACT Act, and put it back up towards a preventative approach. We identify the problem, we educate based on risk reduction, we can fix this problem. We could put a serious dent in saving lives. So,
well, I think you guys are doing awesome work, man, and I think there's a lot of other people out there that would agree with me on that. And I hope to keep seeing you guys around at these different times. We keep bumping into each other, either inadvertently or on purpose. And we, I hope that we continue to have that happen because it is a small community, and I feel like nobody hates on veterans more than veterans, but
that's true.
Nobody cares about veterans more than veterans as well. So I think what you guys are doing is important. It's having an impact, and I hope to see it continue to grow and become more successful and more impactful and affect even more lives in a positive way. And And yeah, I hope it grows, and I hope you get that facility. I'm sure it'll happen. It'll come down, and when it does, you just let me know, and I'll support in whatever way I can.
And if there's any benevolent donors out there,
Yeah, that's
right, who want to help out,
Hunter7Foundation.org.
Yes,
right, and you can read a little bit more about their story and take a look at that stuff, and maybe after you've listened to this podcast, you'll have a better understanding. So,
hope so.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And, we'll see you back at SHOT Show.
Sounds good.
All right.